The mystery of the Khatt Shebib Wall. The Khatt Shebib Wall remains one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of the Middle East, stretching across approximately 150 kilometers of the rugged Jordanian desert. Unlike the world's famous defensive walls, this immense stone structure appears to challenge every expectation of what such a monument should be. Its remarkable length demonstrates an extraordinary investment of labor and planning, yet its physical design raises questions that continue to puzzle archaeologists. Built from unworked local stones and extending across valleys, hills, and open plains, the wall has quietly endured for centuries while keeping the true purpose of its construction hidden beneath the sands of history. The wall first attracted widespread attention during 1948 when it was identified from the air by a British diplomat flying over the region. From above, the monument revealed itself as an intricate network of branching stone walls rather than a single, uninterrupted barrier. Running generally from north-northeast to south-southwest, the structure crosses some of the harshest terrain in Jordan, making its construction an impressive achievement for the ancient people responsible for creating it. What immediately distinguishes the Khatt Shebib Wall from other famous ancient frontiers is its surprising lack of defensive strength. Archaeological investigations suggest the wall originally stood only about 1 to 1.5 meters tall, while measuring less than a meter in width. Such dimensions would have offered little resistance to determined travelers, horse riders, or camel caravans. Even more unusual is the route the wall follows. Rather than taking advantage of steep cliffs or naturally defensive positions, it simply follows the landscape wherever it leads, crossing valleys and climbing hills without any obvious military strategy. Scattered along the wall are approximately 100 small towers built at regular intervals. At first glance, these structures appear to support the idea of a fortified frontier. However, closer examination reveals that they are far too small to accommodate large groups of defenders or store significant supplies. Instead, they seem better suited as temporary observation points, suggesting they served a very different purpose from traditional military watchtowers. Because the wall appears ineffective as a defensive barrier, researchers have explored other possibilities. Agriculture seems equally unlikely. The surrounding desert receives very little rainfall, making extensive farming difficult. If the wall was not protecting settlements or crops, why would an ancient civilization devote such enormous effort to building it? Many archaeologists now believe the Khatt Shebib Wall functioned as a territorial boundary rather than a physical obstacle. During the period when it was likely constructed, perhaps during the Iron Age or the Nabatean era, the region formed a meeting point between settled farming communities and nomadic pastoral groups. The wall may have acted as a clearly visible line separating different ways of life, marking the transition between cultivated land and open grazing territory. Such a boundary would not need to prevent movement entirely. Instead, it could guide the movement of people, livestock, and trading caravans toward designated crossing points. In doing so, local authorities could monitor activity, regulate commerce, and maintain peaceful relationships between neighboring communities. The small towers positioned along the route would have provided ideal shelters for watchmen responsible for overseeing these crossings and ensuring that travel remained orderly. Despite these convincing interpretations, many uncertainties remain. No inscriptions have been discovered explaining who commissioned the wall, exactly when it was completed, or what its builders called it. Without written records, archaeologists must rely entirely upon the physical evidence scattered across the desert landscape. The mysterious object over Alaska that was covered up. Occurring only days after the highly publicized surveillance balloon incident, the encounter immediately stood apart because of the unusual nature of the object itself. Unlike the enormous balloon that had been tracked across North America, this new target was described as a metallic cylinder roughly the size of a small car, traveling at an altitude of around 40,000 feet. It appeared to possess no visible wings, no obvious means of propulsion, and no clear method of steering. Its strange appearance and the events that followed transformed the incident into one of the most enduring mysteries of recent years. As the unidentified object moved through northern airspace, military officials considered it significant enough to launch one of the United States Air Force's most advanced fighter aircraft, the F-22 Raptor. The aircraft intercepted the object near Dead Horse, Alaska, before successfully bringing it down with a precision missile. Witnesses familiar with the event explained that the object did not behave like a conventional balloon after impact. Rather than slowly descending or drifting with the wind, it reportedly fractured before falling into the icy waters below. From that moment onward, the mystery only deepened. One of the most intriguing aspects of the encounter was the contrast between this incident and the balloon event that had occurred only a short time earlier. During the previous operation, photographs, updates, and recovery details were released regularly to the public. News organizations followed every stage of the investigation, and officials provided frequent briefings explaining what had taken place. In comparison, information surrounding the Alaskan object became remarkably limited almost immediately after the intercept. Reports suggested that the pilots involved observed something unlike anything they had previously encountered. According to accounts surrounding the event, the object appeared metallic, cylindrical, and unlike any familiar aircraft. Some descriptions indicated that onboard aircraft systems experienced unusual interference while approaching it, while others stated that the object displayed no obvious method of remaining airborne. These unusual characteristics quickly captured public attention, especially as very little supporting visual evidence was ever released. The absence of official photographs or cockpit footage became one of the most talked about aspects of the mystery. Modern military aircraft routinely record missions using sophisticated cameras, sensors, and radar systems capable of capturing remarkable levels of detail. Yet despite widespread interest, none of this material entered the public domain. This silence created an information vacuum that encouraged widespread speculation, with many believing that the complete story remained hidden behind closed doors. Attention soon shifted toward the recovery effort itself. Bringing the object down represented only the beginning of the investigation. The frozen waters off Alaska presented an extraordinarily challenging environment, covered by shifting sea ice, severe weather, and some of the harshest conditions on Earth. Search teams began efforts to locate the remains, hoping the recovered material would finally answer the many questions surrounding the mysterious cylinder. However, only a short time later, recovery operations came to an abrupt conclusion. Officials announced that difficult environmental conditions had prevented crews from successfully retrieving the wreckage. Heavy sea ice, freezing temperatures, and dangerous weather made continued operations increasingly difficult. Although these explanations were accepted by some observers, others remained unconvinced, believing that technology capable of tracking advanced aircraft should also have been capable of locating the debris with greater certainty. This unexpected conclusion only strengthened the mystery. Many wondered how an operation involving advanced radar systems, satellite surveillance, and sophisticated military resources could end without recovering a single publicly displayed fragment. The lack of physical evidence ensured that discussions surrounding the object continued long after official statements had faded from the headlines. The incident also became part of a much broader conversation surrounding unidentified aerial objects. For decades, unusual objects reported by military personnel have generated fascination around the world. Whenever unexplained encounters occur, public curiosity naturally grows, particularly when official information remains limited. The Alaskan cylinder quickly joined that long list of enduring mysteries, becoming another event that continues to inspire discussion among researchers, aviation enthusiasts, and those interested in unexplained mysteries. Adding further intrigue was the apparent mismatch between the seriousness of the military response and the limited conclusions that followed. Deploying one of the world's most advanced fighter aircraft to intercept an object at high altitude demonstrated that officials initially regarded the situation as important. Yet afterwards, public statements gradually shifted toward more ordinary possibilities, leaving many observers feeling that significant questions remained unanswered. Without recovered debris available for independent examination, the object's true identity continues to remain uncertain. Some believe it represented an advanced surveillance platform employing unfamiliar technology. Others suggest it may have been an experimental vehicle, unlike anything previously seen in public. Still others view it as something entirely outside conventional explanation. Whatever its origin, the unusual combination of its reported appearance, the rapid military response, and the limited information released afterwards has ensured that interest in the incident has never faded. The mystery of the Por Bajin Fortress. The mystery of the Por Bajin Fortress remains one of the most fascinating archaeological puzzles hidden within the remote wilderness of southern Siberia. Rising from a small island in the middle of Lake Terekol, deep within the mountains of Tuva, this remarkable complex has puzzled historians and archaeologists for generations. Covering approximately 8.5 acres, the fortress was constructed more than 1,300 years ago using an astonishing combination of timber, clay, and sophisticated engineering. Despite its impressive size and the enormous effort required to build it in such an isolated location, evidence suggests the complex was scarcely used before it was suddenly abandoned, leaving behind one of Eurasia's greatest historical mysteries. Known locally as Por Bajin, meaning clay house, the fortress occupies one of the most secluded locations imaginable. Surrounded by the cold waters of Lake Terekol and distant from major settlements, transporting the vast quantities of building materials alone would have required extraordinary organization. Massive outer walls once rose to impressive heights, enclosing a carefully planned interior that displayed an architectural precision rarely associated with the nomadic cultures of Central Asia. What immediately surprised researchers was the fortress's striking resemblance to the grand architectural traditions of China's Tang dynasty. Inside the walls, the buildings were arranged in an orderly grid surrounding a spacious central courtyard. A large ceremonial structure dominated the center, while smaller buildings lined carefully organized pathways connected by covered walkways. Decorative roof tiles displaying unmistakable Tang artistic influences further demonstrated that the builders possessed remarkable architectural knowledge, far beyond what many had expected for the region. At first glance, Por Bajin appeared to be an ideal military fortress. Its towering walls and isolated island setting seemed perfectly suited for defense. However, detailed archaeological investigations soon raised serious doubts about this interpretation. Unlike genuine military installations, the complex contained surprisingly little evidence of barracks, defensive positions, workshops, or storage facilities that would normally support a permanent garrison. Instead, the elegant symmetry and carefully arranged buildings suggested a place designed for prestige, ceremony, or quiet reflection rather than military activity. These discoveries encouraged historians to consider alternative explanations. One possibility suggested that Por Bajin served as a magnificent summer residence for a ruler of the Uyghur Khaganate. During this period, the Uyghur Empire maintained close diplomatic relationships with Tang China, frequently exchanging ideas, technology, and even members of royal families through marriage alliances. A luxurious island palace combining Chinese architectural elegance with the dramatic Siberian landscape would have symbolized both political influence and cultural sophistication. Another equally compelling theory proposed that the complex functioned as a secluded monastery devoted to Manichaeism, the religion adopted by the Uyghur rulers during the 8th century. Manichaean communities valued peaceful, isolated environments where meditation, learning, and religious ceremonies could take place away from the distractions of everyday life. An island, surrounded by quiet mountain waters, would have provided an ideal sanctuary for such a purpose, allowing religious scholars to preserve sacred traditions in complete isolation. Perhaps the greatest mystery surrounding Por Bajin is not what it was intended to become, but why it appears to have been abandoned almost immediately after construction. Archaeological excavations uncovered remarkably few everyday objects. There were almost no broken tools, household items, cooking equipment, or animal remains normally associated with long-term occupation. Even more surprising was the absence of heating systems, an essential feature for surviving the extremely harsh Siberian winters. Everything suggested that the enormous complex had been completed but never truly inhabited. Modern scientific analysis eventually provided an important clue. By studying the growth rings preserved within the original timber beams, researchers determined that many of the trees used in construction had been harvested around the year 777. This precise dating placed the fortress within a period of dramatic political and religious change throughout the Uyghur Empire. Historical records describe how the ruler responsible for promoting Manichaeism suddenly lost power during a major political upheaval. Leadership changed rapidly, bringing an end to the ambitious religious reforms that had transformed the empire. If Porbajin had indeed been intended as either a royal residence closely associated with the previous ruler or a major Manichaean monastery, the project may have become unnecessary almost overnight. Rather than investing further resources into maintaining the isolated complex, the new leadership simply left it behind before it could ever fulfill its intended purpose. Nature soon added its own chapter to the fortress's remarkable story. The region surrounding Lake Terrakol experiences regular seismic activity, and evidence suggests a powerful earthquake struck the island not long after construction ended. Tremors fractured the massive clay walls, while a destructive fire swept through the wooden buildings, causing the heavy tiled roofs to collapse inward. Over the centuries that followed, seasonal freezing and thawing gradually distorted the remaining structures as the ground slowly shifted beneath them. The mystery of the Uffington White Horse. High upon the rolling Berkshire Downs in Oxfordshire lies one of Britain's oldest and most extraordinary prehistoric monuments. Carved into the chalk hillside, the Uffington White Horse stretches across the landscape in a striking display of graceful curves and sweeping lines. Measuring more than 100 meters from its flowing tail to its distinctive head, the enormous figure has overlooked the surrounding countryside for almost 3,000 years. Although modern scientific techniques have successfully established when it was created, the true purpose of the monument, and even the identity of the figure itself, remain among Britain's greatest archaeological mysteries. For generations, local people have simply referred to the geoglyph as the White Horse. However, when viewed closely, the figure bears surprisingly little resemblance to a realistic horse. Rather than depicting a natural animal, it consists of elegant, flowing curves that create an almost abstract design. The long body, slender legs, sweeping tail, and unusual head give the monument a surprisingly modern appearance despite its immense age. This remarkable style has led many researchers to question whether the figure was ever intended to represent a horse at all. Some archaeologists believe the image may instead portray another powerful animal, perhaps a hunting hound, or even a great feline designed to symbolize strength, speed, and authority. Others have suggested the unusual head resembles a dragon rather than an ordinary animal. This theory gains additional interest because of the nearby Dragon Hill, where local tradition later claimed St. George defeated a mighty dragon. Although this legend developed many centuries after the geoglyph was created, its proximity has encouraged speculation that the monument may preserve memories of far older beliefs whose original meaning has gradually disappeared through time. The mystery deepens even further when considering the figure's remarkable design. From ground level, the White Horse appears fragmented and distorted. Only when viewed from high above or from many miles across the surrounding countryside does its elegant form become fully visible. Such careful planning suggests that its creators intentionally designed the monument to be appreciated from a great distance rather than by people standing nearby. This unusual characteristic has inspired one of the most fascinating interpretations of the monument. Some researchers believe the White Horse served as a sacred offering directed toward the heavens rather than toward humanity itself. Throughout many ancient European traditions, horses were closely connected with the movement of the sun across the sky. According to these beliefs, a magnificent celestial horse carried the sun on its daily journey from dawn until sunset. Positioned upon a hillside where the rising and setting sun appears to travel alongside its graceful outline, the Uffington figure may have represented an enormous prayer carved directly into the landscape, celebrating the eternal rhythm of day and night. Others believe the monument served a more practical purpose connected with the people who lived nearby. The White Horse stands close to the Ridgeway, one of Britain's oldest prehistoric routes, travelled by merchants, farmers, and communities for thousands of years. Anyone approaching the region would have immediately noticed the brilliant white figure shining against the green hillside. In this context, the monument may have functioned as a territorial marker, announcing the presence, strength, and identity of the local community. Nearby stands the impressive earthwork, known today as Uffington Castle, an Iron Age hill fort overlooking the surrounding valley. Together, the hill fort and the White Horse may have formed part of a larger ceremonial and political landscape. The enormous figure could have represented a powerful tribal symbol, welcoming allies while demonstrating the organization and influence of the people responsible for maintaining such a remarkable monument. It may also have served as a gathering place where important ceremonies, seasonal celebrations, and community events took place beneath its watchful presence. Although its original purpose remains uncertain, perhaps the greatest mystery surrounding the White Horse is how it has survived for so long. Unlike stone monuments, chalk figures are incredibly fragile. Without constant maintenance, grass, soil, and natural erosion gradually conceal the shallow trenches until the image disappears completely within only a few decades. Left alone, the White Horse would have vanished centuries ago. Its continued existence is the result of an extraordinary tradition known as scouring. For countless generations, local communities gathered regularly upon the hillside to clear away weeds and vegetation before filling the trenches with fresh white chalk. These communal events became important social occasions, bringing together families and neighbors to preserve the mysterious figure for future generations. Remarkably, people continued caring for the monument long after its original meaning had been forgotten. This enduring tradition demonstrates something remarkable about humanity's relationship with its past. Even when later generations no longer understood why the figure had first been created, they recognized that it possessed immense cultural importance. Rather than allowing it to disappear beneath the landscape, they chose to protect it, ensuring that its brilliant outline continued to dominate the hillside through changing kingdoms, languages, and beliefs. Modern scientific dating has finally revealed that the White Horse was created during the Late Bronze Age or Early Iron Age. Yet this important discovery has only deepened the fascination surrounding the monument. Knowing when it was created does little to explain what inspired its builders or what message they hoped to leave behind. The mysterious Johnny Sands encounter. The encounter reported by country western singer Johnny Sands remains one of the most remarkable close contact cases ever documented. While many extraordinary accounts rely solely on the testimony of a single witness, Sands's experience gained additional credibility through independent reports of a strange object seen by other observers that same evening, as well as the results of a lie detector examination that found no indication of deception. Even more intriguing was Sands's insistence that he would never reveal certain information shared with him during the encounter, believing that doing so would violate a promise he had made to the mysterious visitors. On the evening of the 29th of January, 1976, the 30-year-old entertainer was driving back to Las Vegas after promoting his first country western album at several radio stations in nearby towns. It was shortly after 10 o'clock when he found himself traveling along Blue Diamond Road, approximately 20 miles outside the city. As darkness settled over the Nevada desert, Sands noticed what appeared to be a brightly illuminated blimp-shaped object moving across the sky. At first, he gave it little thought, assuming it was simply another unusual aircraft associated with the vibrant atmosphere surrounding Las Vegas. Within minutes, however, the object appeared to be following his vehicle. Almost simultaneously, his car engine began to lose power before eventually stopping altogether. Sands carefully guided the vehicle to the side of the road and stepped outside to investigate. After checking the fuel supply and lifting the bonnet, his attention was drawn upward once again. The strange object was now positioned almost directly above him. He later estimated the craft measured roughly 60 feet in length and hovered at an altitude of approximately 1,000 feet. A large circular ring surrounded its center, while evenly spaced porthole-like openings lined its sides. Flashing red and white lights marked each end of the object, and its exterior displayed what Sands described as a rusty orange color. As the craft slowly drifted southward, it illuminated the surrounding desert and nearby mountains before appearing to descend toward the ground in the distance. Believing his car troubles remained his greatest concern, Sands returned to examining the engine. As he worked, he noticed the low beams of his headlights shining across the desert. Looking ahead, he suddenly saw two figures walking steadily toward him through the darkness. Initially assuming they might simply be travelers or strangers offering assistance, he cautiously stepped backward toward his vehicle. At that moment, he realized he could no longer move. Although he remained fully aware of everything happening around him, his legs refused to respond, leaving him with the unsettling sensation that the connection between his mind and body had somehow been interrupted. The figures continued approaching until one stopped roughly 8 feet away, while the second came within only 3 feet. From that close distance, Sands realized they were unlike any ordinary people he had ever seen. Both possessed athletic, well-proportioned bodies, yet their faces appeared unusually aged, giving the impression of immense wisdom despite their youthful physiques. Their heads were completely bald, with no eyebrows, eyelashes, or facial hair. Small, flattened noses sat above narrow mouths that never visibly moved, even while they communicated. Their eyes were jet black with tiny white pupils, creating an unforgettable appearance. Perhaps the most unusual feature was a series of gill-like structures positioned along the sides of their faces. Sands recalled that these strange formations constantly moved throughout the encounter. He estimated both beings stood only slightly shorter than 6 feet tall and weighed approximately 150 pounds. The visitors wore seamless one-piece garments that appeared black with a silvery sheen. When one of the figures accidentally brushed against Sands's arm, he noticed the material felt surprisingly rough, resembling heavy-duty sandpaper rather than fabric. Around each figure's waist was a white belt, matching a broad white strap running diagonally from the right shoulder to the left side. Several small metallic objects hung from the belt, though Sands could not determine their purpose. The conversation that followed proved equally extraordinary. One of the beings calmly asked why Sands was there. He explained that he was an entertainer who had recently moved to Las Vegas to promote his music. The visitor then asked why so many people traveled to the city. Sands attempted to explain that visitors arrived for many different reasons, including entertainment and recreation. The conversation then took a confusing turn when the humanoid questioned him about communication. Sands admitted he did not fully understand what was being asked and attempted to explain that people communicated in many different ways. Before he could finish, the visitor interrupted him with noticeable impatience, instructing him simply to answer the question. Unable to understand exactly what information they wanted, Sands apologized once again. The two visitors then turned toward one another and silently stared into each other's eyes for several moments without speaking. Sands believed they somehow communicated without words, exchanging information in complete silence before returning their attention to him. Finally, one of the beings spoke again in a deep voice, pausing deliberately between each word. It instructed Sands not to tell anyone about the meeting and assured him they knew where he was and would see him again. Moments later, both figures calmly walked back toward the waiting craft. A brilliant flash of light illuminated the desert, and both the visitors and their unusual vehicle disappeared instantly. The entire encounter lasted no more than 10 minutes. Almost immediately afterward, Sands returned to his vehicle and discovered the engine started effortlessly, as though nothing had ever been wrong. He drove directly back to Las Vegas and reported the remarkable experience to the local police. Officers referred him to nearby Nellis Air Force Base, where he hoped someone might investigate the extraordinary events. However, he was informed that no active investigation would be conducted and that nothing unusual had reportedly appeared on radar that evening. Despite this response, later investigations uncovered reports from other witnesses who had observed a strange aerial object over the Las Vegas area during exactly the same period described by Sands. These independent sightings closely matched his description of the unusual craft. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the case came when Sands voluntarily underwent a lie detector examination. According to the results provided to investigators, his responses showed no signs of deception when answering the key questions surrounding the encounter. Combined with the corroborating witness reports, the examination strengthened the belief that Sands sincerely described an experience exactly as he remembered it. Nearly 5 decades later, the Johnny Sands encounter continues to stand as one of the most intriguing close-contact reports ever recorded. Japanese sailors report encountering mysterious oceanic humanoids. The mystery of the strange reports made by Japanese fishermen has become one of the strangest ocean mysteries. Unlike many mysterious sea creatures rooted in ancient stories, the Ningen is a relatively recent mystery that gained attention through reports from fishermen, research crews, and sailors working in some of the most isolated waters on Earth. Far from busy shipping lanes, where towering icebergs drift silently across the Southern Ocean, witnesses have described encountering an enormous pale figure unlike any known marine animal. These remarkable accounts have transformed the Ningen into one of the ocean's most enduring mysteries. According to those who claim to have seen it, the Ningen bears an unsettling resemblance to a gigantic human. Witnesses describe a smooth, completely white body measuring between 20 and 30 meters in length, placing it among the largest creatures ever reported beneath the waves. Unlike whales, seals, or other familiar marine life, the Ningen is said to possess long, slender arms extending from its sides, sometimes ending in what appear to be 5 distinct fingers. Its enormous body narrows toward the lower half, where some observers describe a single broad tail, while others report 2 powerful leg-like appendages moving gracefully through the water. Completing its unusual appearance is a rounded head with large dark eyes and only a narrow slit where a mouth should be, giving the creature an expression that many witnesses describe as strangely emotionless. Stories of the Ningen began circulating more widely during the early years of the 21st century, after accounts reportedly emerged from Japanese crews operating in Antarctic waters. Several sailors described unusual radar contacts appearing beneath their vessels during nighttime operations. At first, many believed they were detecting submarines moving beneath the ice-covered sea. However, when powerful searchlights illuminated the water, they claimed to discover something entirely unexpected. Instead of a metal vessel, an enormous white figure drifted silently beneath the surface, appearing almost motionless as it watched the ship above. According to these reports, the mysterious creature never displayed aggression or made sudden movements. Instead, it simply remained visible for several moments before slowly descending into the darkness, disappearing from view without leaving any obvious trace behind. The silence surrounding these encounters became one of the most unsettling aspects of the story. There were no dramatic splashes, no loud sounds, and no visible signs of distress. The creature simply appeared and vanished as though perfectly adapted to the hidden world beneath the Antarctic ice. As the reports spread across online communities, interest in the Ningen rapidly expanded beyond Japan. Artists created illustrations based on witness descriptions, while documentaries and mystery researchers began exploring the possibility that an unknown species could inhabit the largely unexplored Southern Ocean. The remote nature of Antarctica only strengthened the mystery. With few permanent human settlements and vast stretches of ocean remaining largely untouched, many people believed it was entirely possible that enormous unknown creatures could still exist beyond the reach of regular scientific observation. Several explanations have been proposed over the years. Some researchers suggest that unusual lighting conditions, combined with drifting ice formations and the pale bodies of whales, may create convincing illusions during long nights at sea. Others believe that unfamiliar marine mammals observed from unusual angles could account for some sightings. Yet many witnesses insist that these explanations fail to capture what they experienced. They describe seeing unmistakably humanoid forms with proportions unlike any recognized animal, leaving them convinced they had encountered something entirely unknown. One reason the Ningen continues to capture imaginations is the extraordinary mystery of the deep ocean itself. Although humanity has explored space and mapped distant planets, much of Earth's oceans remain largely unexplored. The crushing pressure, extreme darkness, and immense size of the underwater world create an environment where discovery remains possible. Every year, scientists identify previously unknown marine species, demonstrating that remarkable surprises still exist beneath the waves. For those who believe the reports, the Ningen represents one of those hidden discoveries waiting to be fully understood. Whether silently moving beneath Antarctic ice shelves or drifting through the freezing waters of the Southern Ocean, the mysterious creature has become a symbol of the countless secrets still concealed beneath Earth's oceans. Its pale appearance, enormous size, and strangely human shape continue to inspire discussion among researchers and mystery enthusiasts alike. Mysterious apparition. According to the account shared with this photograph, The image was taken by a 13-year-old girl moments after an unsettling experience in her bedroom. She had reportedly awakened during the night while experiencing sleep paralysis, unable to move despite becoming aware of her surroundings. After the episode finally ended, she immediately heard a strange sound coming from the opposite side of the room. Acting on instinct, she reached for her mobile phone and quickly pointed the camera toward the source of the noise before taking a single photograph. When the image was later examined, it appeared to show a tall, dark figure standing silently within the room. The shadowy shape seems to tower above the surrounding furniture, creating a striking silhouette against the dimly lit background. According to the family, nothing matching this appearance was present when the room was checked moments later, making the photograph all the more mysterious. The mystery of Wycliffe Well. Deep within the vast red heart of Australia's Northern Territory lies one of the country's most enduring mysteries. Along the lonely Stuart Highway, approximately 380 kilometres north of Alice Springs, stood the remote settlement of Wycliffe Well. For decades, this isolated outpost proudly carried the title of the UFO capital of Australia, drawing curious travellers, paranormal researchers, and adventurous tourists from around the world. Although the famous roadhouse has now faded into history, the remarkable stories connected to the surrounding desert continue to capture the imagination of everyone fascinated by unexplained aerial objects. Long before colourful alien statues and flying saucer murals transformed the location into a popular roadside attraction, unusual sightings had already become rooted in local history. During the years of the Second World War, the Australian military established a market garden near Wycliffe Well to provide fresh produce for troops stationed throughout northern Australia. Soldiers working night shifts soon began noticing brilliant lights moving silently across the desert sky. These luminous objects behaved unlike ordinary aircraft or familiar astronomical sightings. Witnesses described glowing spheres that travelled at tremendous speed before suddenly stopping without warning, hovering motionless, and then accelerating away in directions that appeared to defy conventional flight. Rather than dismissing the observations, many of the soldiers carefully documented what they witnessed. Their reports eventually became part of a handwritten logbook that remained at Wycliffe Well for decades. As years passed, locals, truck drivers, tourists, and station workers all added their own remarkable experiences to its growing collection of testimonies. The book became an extraordinary record of unexplained encounters stretching across generations. In a development that only deepened the legend, the original wartime logbook mysteriously disappeared during 1990. Its unexplained disappearance became another chapter in the growing mystery surrounding Wycliffe Well, leaving only memories of the original reports behind. The encounters followed several recurring patterns. Perhaps the most frequently reported involved strange glowing lights appearing behind vehicles travelling the isolated Stuart Highway late at night. Drivers would first notice a bright object in their mirrors before watching it rapidly close the distance. Instead of overtaking the vehicle, the mysterious light often matched its speed perfectly, hovering silently alongside the road. Some witnesses described the glowing spheres travelling only a few meters above the ground, while others claimed the lights illuminated the inside of their vehicles before suddenly shooting vertically into the night sky and disappearing within seconds. Other accounts involved structured aerial craft rather than simple lights. Experienced truck drivers and long-distance travelers reported enormous metallic objects suspended silently above the desert landscape. Some described disc-shaped craft, while others recalled triangular objects gliding effortlessly without producing any sound. One of the area's best-known stories tells of an enormous object hovering above the roadhouse before surrounding the area with brilliant white light and vanishing without leaving any trace. Such reports became so common that many regular visitors began planning overnight stays in the hope of witnessing similar events for themselves. Among the most unsettling experiences were those involving mysterious humanoid figures. Over many decades, several witnesses claimed to have observed tall, silent beings standing near the highway or at the edge of the surrounding bushland. These figures were often described as wearing close-fitting metallic clothing or surrounded by a faint glow. Unlike the rapidly moving lights in the sky, these mysterious visitors reportedly remained completely motionless, creating an overwhelming sense of stillness. Many witnesses recalled that even the sounds of insects and the desert wind seemed to disappear during these encounters, leaving behind an eerie silence that they never forgot. The reputation of Wycliffe Well expanded dramatically during the 1980s, when new ownership embraced the area's growing paranormal fame. The roadhouse was transformed into an unforgettable roadside attraction decorated with colorful extraterrestrial themes. Giant green alien statues welcomed travelers, while murals depicting flying saucers covered the buildings. Display cabinets filled with newspaper clippings, photographs, witness accounts, and unusual memorabilia encouraged visitors to learn more about the area's extraordinary history. Many people believed the location occupied a unique position on powerful natural energy lines that crossed the Australian continent. According to this theory, these invisible pathways acted as navigation routes for advanced visitors traveling across the planet. While this idea remained impossible to verify, it added another fascinating layer to the growing mythology surrounding Wycliffe Well and attracted researchers eager to experience the unusual atmosphere for themselves. Visitors often remarked that the surrounding landscape possessed a remarkable quality unlike anywhere else. The vast desert stretched endlessly in every direction beneath some of the clearest night skies on Earth. With almost no artificial light to interfere with the stars, the heavens appeared breathtakingly bright, revealing countless celestial objects invisible from busy cities. It was within this extraordinary setting that so many unexplained sightings reportedly unfolded, giving the area an atmosphere of mystery that seemed perfectly suited to the remarkable stories shared by generations of travelers. Sadly, the famous chapter of Wycliffe Well eventually came to an unexpected end. During the closing days of 2022, catastrophic flash flooding swept across the region. The floodwaters caused devastating damage to the iconic roadhouse, destroying much of the site that had welcomed visitors for decades. Alien statues were scattered across the landscape, buildings were left filled with thick mud, and the once vibrant tourist attraction became a silent reminder of its colorful past. With rebuilding proving impractical, the location gradually became abandoned, leaving behind only fading murals and weathered reminders of its remarkable history. Yet although the buildings have fallen silent, the mystery itself has never disappeared. The immense skies above Wycliffe Well remain unchanged, stretching endlessly across the Australian outback, just as they did when the earliest witnesses first looked upward during the 1940s. Countless reports of glowing lights, extraordinary aerial maneuvers, structured craft, and mysterious figures have ensured that Wycliffe Well continues to occupy a unique place within Australia's unexplained history. Dr. Beatrice Villaroel's recent study has taken the scientific community by surprise, introducing a discovery so significant that, if confirmed, it could rewrite everything humanity thought it knew about space, technology, and our place in the universe. Her research, published under the title Aligned Multiple Transient Events in the First Palomar Sky Survey, presents evidence of what appears to be a vast and coordinated network of artificial objects in high Earth orbit, captured in photographs taken between the years 1949 and 1958, a full decade before the launch of Sputnik and the official dawn of human spaceflight. These findings are not merely interesting, they are staggering in their implications. The study is based on an in-depth analysis of the first Palomar Sky Survey, a historical archive of astronomical photographs collected well before humanity had the ability to place objects in orbit. Dr. Villaroel's team examined hundreds of thousands of images from this sky survey, seeking out flashes of light that appeared suddenly and then vanished just as quickly. These flashes, amounting to nearly 300,000 separate events, were too brief to be stars or cosmic phenomena, and too frequent and organized to be dismissed as photographic error. More than 298,000 short-lived flashes of light were catalogued across these plates. Upon closer inspection, many of these flashes were aligned and occurred simultaneously across various sections of the sky. Their characteristics were consistent with sunlight reflecting off metallic surfaces, suggesting that they were solid physical objects orbiting Earth. These objects, according to the team's calculations, were located approximately 40,000 to 80,000 kilometers above Earth, placing them in high orbit, decades before humanity possessed rockets capable of reaching even low Earth orbit. One of the most critical aspects of the study was a simple yet decisive test. If these flashes were caused by photographic errors or cosmic rays, they would appear regardless of lighting conditions. However, when the suspected objects were within Earth's shadow, known as the umbra, the flashes completely vanished. When the same regions were illuminated by the sun, the flashes returned. This ruled out anomalies in the photographic plates themselves and strongly supported the conclusion that these were physical objects reflecting sunlight. The scientific weight of this discovery becomes undeniable when considering the statistical result of the analysis. The team recorded a result of 22 sigma, an almost unimaginable level of certainty in physics. For comparison, a 3 sigma finding is considered noteworthy. A 5 sigma result is required to confirm a new discovery, but 22 sigma, that is beyond extraordinary. It is a number so large that the likelihood of this being a coincidence is estimated at 1 in 10 to the power of 70, a number so small it effectively equates to 0. In the world of science, this level of certainty is considered definitive. When researchers say 22 sigma, they are not suggesting or speculating, they are declaring that the phenomenon is real. And this phenomenon is no minor blip. It is not 1 or 2 strange lights in the sky. It is a massive, organized array of artificial objects, hundreds of thousands of them, aligned and coordinated in a way that suggests intention and design. This is infrastructure, and it was there before humans had even left the atmosphere. Adding further weight to the implications, several of these flashes line up with major unidentified aerial phenomena events in Earth's history. One particularly strong signal, at 3.9 sigma, corresponds with the well-known Washington, D.C. UFO incident of 1952, when multiple unidentified objects appeared over the United States Capitol. Another aligns with the massive surge in UFO sightings across Europe in 1954, especially in France and Italy. These coincidences hint at a possible connection between what was happening in Earth's skies and what was orbiting silently above. But perhaps the most chilling element of this story is what occurred at Harvard University. Between the years 1953 and 1968, there exists a conspicuous 15-year gap in Harvard's otherwise continuous astronomical photographic records. This missing period, known among researchers as the Menzel gap, began just as Palomar was recording its extraordinary data. Dr. Donald H. Menzel, then director of the Harvard Observatory, abruptly shut down the plate program and ordered the destruction of hundreds of thousands of photographic plates without examining them. These plates would have provided crucial overlap with Dr. Villarroel's data, potentially confirming her findings across 2 major observatories. Dr. Menzel was more than a scientist. He had strong connections to United States intelligence agencies and was a vocal skeptic of UFOs. His decision to halt the program and destroy the data has long puzzled researchers. In light of Dr. Villarroel's findings, it raises serious questions. Was this simply a scientific redirection, or was it a calculated move to erase evidence of something humanity was not ready to understand? The timing is too precise to ignore. What Dr. Villarroel's study implies is not merely the presence of unidentified flying objects. It suggests the existence of a fully constructed surveillance grid in orbit around Earth, built long before human technology was capable of achieving such a feat. If the objects in the photographs are not natural and they are not man-made, the conclusion becomes inevitable. Something else put them there. This changes the conversation entirely. This is not about isolated sightings, scattered encounters, or single mysterious crafts. This is about an enduring, deliberate presence above our planet. A network capable of watching, observing, and perhaps even interacting with the surface below. A presence that predated our ability to reach for the stars, and yet chose to remain hidden in plain sight. The implications are profound. If we have in fact been watched for decades, perhaps longer, then humanity is not just discovering a new scientific truth, but facing an entirely new relationship with the universe. This is no longer a question of if, it becomes a question of who and why. Who built this network? Why are they observing us? And what have they learned? Dr. Villarroel's work does not provide the answers to these questions, but it does something perhaps even more important. It forces us to ask them. Her study demands attention not only from the scientific community, but from all of humanity. Because if what she has uncovered is real, then it represents one of the most significant discoveries in modern history. And the most remarkable part, it was hidden in plain sight all along. In photographs taken nearly a century ago, With technology that predates digital imaging and modern satellites, the evidence waited patiently until someone asked the right question and dared to look closely. The sky may have appeared quiet, but now we know it has been speaking to us the entire time. Thanks to Dr. Villarroel and her team, we are finally listening, and what it's telling us is extraordinary. Ross Coulthart, the investigative journalist who gained worldwide attention for his interview with intelligence veteran and whistleblower David Grush, has made a claim that has sent shockwaves through the UFO research community. According to Coulthart, the United States is in possession of a craft so large that it could not be moved from where it was found. Instead, the only option was to construct a building around it in the foreign country where it sat. This revelation has fueled speculation and led UFO enthusiasts on a determined hunt for what some have described as a buried treasure of extraterrestrial origin. The search, propelled by online sleuths and researchers, has brought attention to a curious facility in Seoul, South Korea. The site, sitting high atop a mountain, features a massive, perfectly circular structure, approximately 270 feet in diameter. While to the casual observer, this might seem like an ordinary government installation, the size, shape, and secluded location have made it a prime candidate in the eyes of those convinced Coulthart's story is real. Adding fuel to the speculation is the facility's long-standing secrecy and the presence of armed guards, unusual for a structure that is officially described as part of the Korea Airports Corporation Aeronautical Facility headquarters. Intriguingly, a declassified document has been cited as lending weight to these claims. The document references an event near Seoul in the 1970s in which an ET craft was reportedly brought down in a mountainous area. According to the report, it took 3 years to construct a surrounding structure to fully conceal the craft. If this is indeed true, the building could have been sitting there for over 50 years, hiding in plain sight while performing its cover function. What many find even more compelling is the leadership connection. The current president and CEO of the Korea Airports Corporation, which owns the site, previously served as the first deputy director of the National Intelligence Service, South Korea's equivalent to the CIA. This link between the country's airport authority and its top intelligence agency has raised eyebrows among researchers who believe such a background would be fitting for someone overseeing a facility containing a highly sensitive and possibly otherworldly object. From an official standpoint, the building's purpose is linked to aviation communications and monitoring. However, critics of the official explanation note that in the context of South Korea, large mountaintop communication structures are not typically accompanied by such a high level of security. Furthermore, the immense scale of the structure far exceeds what would be necessary for most conventional radio or radar installations. For those who believe in the authenticity of Coulthart's story, the Seoul facility could be the perfect example of how a nation, in cooperation with another, might safeguard a craft that could not be transported. The mountainous terrain would provide a natural layer of concealment, while the large dome-like structure could mask the craft from both aerial observation and satellite imaging. The notion that such an object has remained hidden for decades adds an extra dimension to the mystery, suggesting a level of secrecy and international collaboration rarely acknowledged publicly. Some theorists point out that if this were indeed the site of an extraterrestrial craft, it could explain the sustained military presence. A craft of non-human origin, especially one too large to move, would likely be of immeasurable technological and strategic value. Scientists and engineers could study it in situ, perhaps even reverse engineering its components over decades, all under the guise of an innocuous aviation facility. In this view, the official narrative becomes a convenient smokescreen to keep prying eyes away. Skeptics, of course, argue that the facility's purpose is exactly as described: an aeronautical operations hub with a large radar dish or satellite communication array. In a country with complex geopolitical realities, especially given its proximity to North Korea, heightened security might be entirely reasonable. Yet even some skeptics admit that the unique combination of the building's design, size, history, and leadership connections makes it one of the more intriguing suspect sites linked to Coulthart's revelations. The alleged downing of a craft in the 1970s, if verified, would place this event in an era where UFO sightings and reports were frequent, but governmental disclosure was virtually non-existent. Building a permanent structure to house such an object would not only have hidden it from public view, but also allowed long-term protected study without the risks involved in attempting to dismantle or relocate a massive and potentially delicate object. Other whistleblowers, some of whom claim to have worked on classified aerospace and defense projects, have come forward to say that Ross Coulthart's story is not just speculation, but is deeply grounded in reality. According to these insiders, the idea of a foreign-based UFO so large that it had to be built over is consistent with protocols used in the past to safeguard sensitive technology. They point out that in the 1970s, when this alleged incident near Seoul occurred, no one in the intelligence community foresaw the advent of public, high-resolution satellite imagery, such as Google Earth. At the time, it would have seemed inconceivable that decades later, civilians around the world could freely explore detailed aerial views of even the most remote locations. As such, the decision to construct an enormous building over the craft would have been seen as a foolproof way to hide it indefinitely. One whistleblower, speaking anonymously, stated that the sheer size of the object made its removal impossible without causing catastrophic damage to its structure. Excavating it from the mountainous terrain would have required dismantling it in ways that could have destroyed any technological secrets it held. As a result, the most logical course of action was to secure the site, surround it with necessary support facilities, and mask its true purpose under a legitimate government operation. Over the years, the mountain facility has been quietly maintained, with its presence explained away as part of Korea's aeronautical infrastructure. But according to those with knowledge of classified programs, the truth is far more extraordinary. They suggest that the object buried within may represent the single largest UFO crash site in the world. Its immense scale and preserved condition would make it an unparalleled treasure trove of advanced materials, engineering, and possibly even propulsion technology that humanity has yet to fully comprehend. For decades, it has sat hidden in plain sight, shielded not just by the surrounding forest and restricted access, but also by the very ordinariness of its cover story. Generations of locals, and even most government employees, likely have no idea of the secret buried beneath the mountaintop. The layers of secrecy surrounding the site are so tight that only a small, compartmentalized group within the intelligence and defense sectors are believed to know the full extent of what lies inside. If these accounts are true, the Seoul Mountain facility is not just a relic of a Cold War-era incident, but an active, ongoing project, one that has spanned multiple governments and perhaps even involved cooperation between the United States and South Korea at the highest levels. The possibility that the largest recovered craft in history has been studied for over half a century, right under the public's nose, adds a new dimension to the mystery. Today, the site remains active, its true purpose known only to those with the highest levels of clearance. For the UFO community, it stands as a tantalizing mystery, a potential smoking gun that could, if ever revealed, prove the existence of advanced technology not of this Earth. Until then, the round white structure on a mountaintop south of Seoul will continue to attract attention, inspire debate, and serve as a symbol of the deep unknowns that still exist in our world. Whether it is indeed the location of a craft too large to move, or simply an impressive example of aviation infrastructure, the facility embodies the intrigue and secrecy that often surround discussions of UFOs. For believers, it represents the possibility that extraordinary truths are being kept hidden in plain sight, waiting for the day when they might finally be unveiled. In the vast, remote expanse of Yakutia, one of the most isolated and mysterious regions in the world, a strange and unsettling event began to circulate through corners of the internet. A video, reportedly filmed by a pilot named Dmitry Lyashev, captured something that appeared too enormous and too precise to be natural, a colossal wall stretching across the frozen landscape. This so-called wall was not a crumbling ruin or a collapsed range. Instead, it looked startlingly straight and towering, seemingly artificial in nature, and it extended far beyond what the eye could follow. Dmitry Lyashev, an experienced pilot known for his routine cargo flights over the Siberian wilderness, had been flying a standard route over the Yakutia region when he noticed something strange on the horizon. Cutting through the snow-covered peaks and valleys was an immense structure that looked entirely out of place. Describing it later in a brief post shared to a private social page, Dmitry claimed the wall continued endlessly in both directions. Unable to shake the feeling that he had witnessed something extraordinary, he did what many would do. He filmed it. The footage he captured was mesmerizing. From the cockpit, the landscape below seemed swallowed by white snow and jagged rock, except for a massive, straight-edged formation that sliced through the terrain like a dividing line. Observers described it as a barrier, a literal wall, dark in contrast to the frozen land surrounding it. Though flying thousands of feet above the ground, the pilot's camera could not capture the wall's end in either direction. What made this discovery even more puzzling was what happened next. Dmitry Lyashev, the man who had brought the anomaly to light, appeared to vanish. His social profiles were scrubbed. Attempts by curious researchers and online users to locate or contact him led nowhere. He was unreachable. It was as if he had stepped away from his life without a trace. This sudden silence raised suspicion and worry in equal measure. The disappearance of Dmitry, coming so soon after his video began circulating, raised questions that were impossible to ignore. For those watching closely, it was more than coincidence. Many began suggesting that something, or someone, did not want this discovery gaining widespread attention. They pointed to the erasure of the pilot's online identity as a deliberate move. Some even speculated that higher powers had taken an interest in what he had found. The video itself did not stay available for long. Viewers who had seen it claimed that it was removed from several social media platforms shortly after being posted. What little remained were re-uploads in private forums or screen recordings made by a few quick-thinking users. Yet even those copies were reportedly removed from hosting sites. This strange pattern led to mounting suspicion that a quiet effort was underway to suppress public knowledge of the anomaly. As the story unfolded, many users across the internet voiced their frustration. For a site so massive, allegedly stretching for what looked like thousands of miles, there was remarkably little discussion from mainstream media. There were no official statements, no geological breakdowns, no satellite confirmations. It was almost as if the wall didn't exist. And yet, those who had seen the original footage continued to insist that what they had viewed was real and unlike anything they had seen before. Some interesting theories naturally followed. Some believed that the wall was ancient, the last remnant of a forgotten civilization buried beneath layers of snow and secrecy. Others believed it might be an artificial structure built by unknown groups, either ancient or modern, perhaps even of non-human origin. One of the more grounded theories was that it might be a natural formation with coincidentally perfect symmetry, but even that failed to explain the reaction that followed its discovery. After all, natural formations don't usually spark vanishing pilots and disappearing footage. The Yakutia region itself is no stranger to mystery. Sprawling and largely uninhabited, it is a land where temperatures plummet and time seems to freeze. Stories of strange happenings are not uncommon there, yet this discovery felt different. It was something visible, documented, and then quickly made inaccessible. The sheer scale of the wall was what disturbed most observers. In the footage, the structure appeared to stand like a monolithic partition across the landscape. And despite being filmed from an altitude that should offer vast visibility, there was still no indication of where the wall began or ended. People online began poring over satellite images and archived terrain maps, hoping to identify the formation Dmitry had captured. Some even theorized that it had been digitally masked or altered in publicly available satellite tools. Others scoured declassified files and geological records, but found nothing that even remotely resembled the footage. For many, this lack of documentation only reinforced the belief that something was being hidden. The absence of official interest added to the tension. Why hadn't any geological agencies commented? Where were the investigative journalists? And why had the platforms removed the video with no explanation? Those watching closely began to suspect that the video had drawn attention not only from civilians, but from behind-the-scenes authorities with the power to remove, silence, and erase. More theories began to circulate. Some believed the wall may have been part of an ancient structure, perhaps a boundary created long before modern history. Others wondered if it could be evidence of long-lost knowledge, hidden for centuries, and only now uncovered by chance. A few even questioned whether the wall was a remnant of something not originally of this earth, pointing to the speed at which the footage was buried as evidence that its origin posed a threat to official narratives. But perhaps the most haunting part of the story remains the fate of Dmitry Lyashev. Was his silence voluntary? Did he choose to step away after realizing the weight of what he had uncovered? Or was his disappearance orchestrated by forces bigger than him, powers capable of not only finding and silencing a man, but also wiping away the digital breadcrumbs of his existence? Some claim to have found old mentions of his name in flight records, but no new sightings or communications have emerged. Even the authenticity of his identity began to be questioned. Was Dmitry a real person, or was his name an alias used to obscure the identity of a whistleblower? The more time passed, the fewer answers were available. Yet despite the mystery and silence, the image of the wall lived on. Those who had saved screenshots or fragments of the video began creating digital reconstructions, attempting to recreate the sight Dmitry had shown the world for only a brief moment. Artists and researchers posted interpretations, while forums kept the discussion alive. It became a symbol of the unknown, of truths hidden in plain sight and erased before they could take root. To this day, the wall over Yakutia remains a topic spoken about in whispers, passed between the curious, the skeptical, and those who believe in the unexplained. The legacy of the video is not just the strange structure it revealed, but the powerful reaction that followed. The silence, the deletion, the disappearance, all point to a story bigger than one video, and perhaps bigger than we can understand. Until more information surfaces, the wall stands not only in the snows of Yakutia, but also in the minds of those who believe that some truths are hidden, not because they are dangerous, but because they are powerful. The mystery is not only about a wall, it is about the silencing of discovery, the erasure of evidence, and the lingering sense that there is still so much we are not being told. Mysterious glowing entity captured in Brazil. In the southern part of Minas Gerais, Brazil, a remarkable and baffling sight was captured on camera by a local resident. This inland state in the southeastern region of the country is steeped in rich history, most famously tied to the 18th century gold rush that gave rise to its colonial-era towns. The witness, whose identity remains undisclosed, recorded what appears to be a glowing humanoid figure standing in an open, hilly area. The figure seemed to radiate an intense aura of light, so bright that it made the surrounding scenery appear dimmer by contrast. It stood out clearly against the backdrop of grassy slopes and scattered trees, making it difficult to dismiss as a trick of the light or an illusion. From the perspective in the video, the entity's stature appeared quite large, especially when considering the apparent distance between it and the person filming. The footage, recorded on a mobile phone, is brief and of limited resolution. Nevertheless, the shape of the figure is distinct, making it unlikely to be dismissed as a random reflection or camera artifact. Observers have debated whether it could be a person wearing some kind of light-emitting suit, but the sheer brightness and uniformity of the glow do not match typical artificial lighting or wearable gear. The entity's light seemed almost organic, as though emanating from within rather than being projected onto it. Brazil has long been a hotspot for unusual sightings and unexplained encounters, with citizens frequently reporting phenomena that straddle the line between folklore and the paranormal. Glowing humanoid entities are not unheard of in global reports, but they are often described as smaller, sometimes childlike in stature. In this case, the size of the figure, inferred from its visibility at such a range, suggests something much larger than the typical accounts. These glowing beings have been reported in various environments: dense forests, quiet fields, and even near homes. While there is no single agreed-upon explanation for their nature, theories abound. Some speculate that such figures could be manifestations of spiritual or ghostly energy appearing in a luminous form. Others consider them potential visitors from beyond Earth, with the light possibly serving as a protective shield, a form of communication, or even part of their biological makeup. For now, the identity and nature of the Minas Gerais figure remain a mystery. The witness has not reported any sound or movement associated with the being, and the short duration of the clip leaves many questions unanswered. It is unclear whether more footage exists or whether others in the area witnessed the same phenomenon. Still, the video has circulated widely online, captivating audiences and prompting speculation from both believers and skeptics alike. What stands out most is how the entity's glow appears to harmonize with its surroundings, rather than simply overpowering them, giving it an almost otherworldly elegance. In a region rich in history and mystery, This sighting adds yet another layer to Minas Gerai's tapestry of intrigue. Whether a spiritual manifestation, an unclassified life form, or something entirely beyond current understanding, the glowing figure serves as a vivid reminder that there are still wonders in the world that defy easy explanation. For now, it remains one more unexplained chapter in Brazil's long and fascinating history of extraordinary encounters. Strange entity captured during Christian concert. The photograph from Cedar Falls has sparked intense discussion among those who attended the worship gathering and countless others who have since seen the image. Taken during a large Christian event where hundreds of men were gathered in heartfelt worship, the scene was already charged with emotion and spiritual fervor. The crowd was in deep prayer and repentance, and the worship band on stage was playing a song with the moving lyrics, "Jesus, take all of me." It was at this moment that something extraordinary appeared to manifest in front of the audience. Brian, a Baptist pastor who was present, captured the images using his tablet. He describes himself as someone who does not actively seek signs or wonders, but what he saw on his device afterward left him in awe. Within two photographs taken only about 30 seconds apart, a bright, glowing red entity appeared on the stage. It seemed to radiate light, and its form was vaguely humanoid, yet enveloped in a brilliance that made its details difficult to define. What made the occurrence all the more unusual was that the glow did not match any of the stage lighting patterns or effects used during the event. Brian insists that the appearance was not the result of a random camera flash or a lighting anomaly, as the two images clearly display the same strange figure with no other logical source of illumination. The moment coincided with an atmosphere of profound worship and humility, where many had gathered to dedicate their hearts and lives to God. Witnesses and those who have seen the photograph since have suggested that this could have been a divine encounter, a visible manifestation of an angel. The figure's placement, glowing radiance, and timing during a sacred moment in the worship service have led many to believe this was more than coincidence. Those familiar with biblical descriptions of angels point out that spiritual beings are often depicted as emitting an intense light or fiery presence, making the appearance in Cedar Falls align with centuries-old accounts. The possibility of an angel appearing in a modern-day setting is deeply meaningful to those who see the image as authentic. For them, this was a moment where the boundary between the physical and the spiritual briefly became visible, offering encouragement and affirmation of faith. The fact that the pastor himself had no expectation of capturing such an image, combined with the sequence of events and the lack of any technological explanation, adds to the mystery. While skeptics may search for a natural cause, those who were present or have seen the photographs view them as a reminder that extraordinary events can still occur in the most unexpected of moments. In the eyes of many believers, this was not just a photograph. It was a rare glimpse of the divine intersecting with the human, a sacred sign captured forever in pixels. Mysterious image captured in Honduras. During a mission trip to Veracruz, Copan, deep within the rugged landscapes of Honduras, an extraordinary photograph was captured that continues to intrigue and unsettle those who have seen it. The image, taken inside a dark cave, shows a man wading through waist-deep water, wearing a black shirt with bold white letters across the chest that spells CIA. Beside him stands something that defies conventional explanation, a glowing humanoid figure radiating an intense, almost blinding light. According to the individual who took the photograph, the cave was in complete darkness at the location where the picture was taken. No natural light was able to reach that part of the cavern, and there were no artificial light sources present. The only person physically there, apart from the photographer, was the man in the water. Yet, when the image was later viewed, this brilliant luminous figure was undeniably present, standing just a few feet away. The photograph was captured using a basic flip phone camera, which rules out sophisticated editing or digital manipulation often possible with modern devices. The glow from the figure is not just an overlay, it interacts with the water around it, casting a reddish hue on the ripples and surface. This suggests that the light was truly emanating from the entity itself, affecting the environment in real time. Reports of glowing humanoid beings are exceedingly rare, and those few who have claimed to encounter them describe extraordinary abilities. Witnesses speak of these beings moving in ways that defy the known laws of physics, slipping between solid objects, appearing and disappearing without warning, and moving at speeds that seem impossible. Such descriptions raise the possibility that they may exist outside of the physical constraints familiar to humans, perhaps inhabiting a realm parallel to our own and occasionally crossing into our reality. In this case, the figure's calm stance and proximity to the man suggest no immediate hostility, yet its sudden, unexplained presence within a remote, pitch-black cave evokes both wonder and caution. The location of Vera Cruz Copan adds another layer of intrigue. This region of Honduras is rich in ancient history, with ruins, myths, and folklore that speak of otherworldly visitors and guardians. Whether this glowing humanoid is connected to those legends or is something entirely different remains an open question. Mysterious intruder. The photograph in question tells a story that becomes stranger with every glance. Taken by a man while traveling, it began as nothing more than a casual series of snapshots. He was standing in an indoor setting, possibly a public exhibit or aquarium, smiling into the camera as he captured several frames in quick succession. The first 3 images appear completely ordinary. In each of them, the background and the people around him remain consistent, with no sign of anything unusual. However, the final frame, taken only seconds after the others, contains something deeply unsettling. Behind the smiling subject, a figure appears that no one present could recall seeing in the room. The individual's face is warped in a way that defies explanation, with features stretched and distorted almost beyond recognition. The clothing worn by this figure also stood out, not only because it did not match the attire of anyone else in the space, but because the man taking the photograph insisted that no one there was dressed that way. Those who have examined the image closely have commented on how the figure's face does not resemble typical motion blur, which usually leaves some trace of recognizable features. Instead, the distortion seems unnatural, as if the face has been altered by an unknown force or caught in a fleeting state between appearances. The background remains crisp, making the warped face even more jarring against the otherwise still setting. The man maintains that the photographs were taken within a span of mere seconds, with no chance for someone new to suddenly appear in the scene. He also claims that he did not notice anything unusual at the time, nor did anyone else in the room react as though a strange person had entered their space. It was only when reviewing the images later that the anomaly was discovered. Since surfacing online, the photograph has been analyzed by numerous enthusiasts and researchers of unexplained phenomena. Some suggest that the figure could be an example of an interdimensional slip, where a being from another reality briefly manifests in our own before vanishing. Others speculate about time distortions, ghostly apparitions, or the possibility of the camera capturing something not normally visible to the human eye. The eerie detail of the mismatched clothing adds to the mystery. While the rest of the people in the room appear dressed in casual attire fitting the environment, the figure's outfit seems out of place, as if from a different time or situation entirely. Combined with the face distortion, it suggests that this was not simply another visitor accidentally stepping into the shot. The man who took the photograph has expressed lingering unease about the experience. Even though there was no direct confrontation or obvious disturbance at the time, the realization that something unexplainable happened just feet away from him has stayed with him. The image remains one of those rare moments where the ordinary collides with the extraordinary, captured forever in a single frame. A strange and haunting reminder that sometimes the camera sees more than the eye. Mysterious photograph captured in the Grand Canyon. Nestled within the rugged terrain of the American Southwest lies one of the world's most awe-inspiring natural wonders, the Grand Canyon. Carved over millions of years by the relentless forces of wind and water, this vast chasm stretches for miles across the arid landscape, its sheer cliffs and towering spires standing as a testament to the power of nature. Yet beneath its majestic beauty lies a tapestry of mysteries, hidden within its depths and waiting to be uncovered by those daring enough to venture into its depths. One user unveils a mysterious photograph captured by his uncle during the 1980s, and it stands out as one of the eeriest tourist pictures ever taken. The spectral photograph showcases an uncanny figure resembling an extraordinarily tall, extremely pale, and immensely unsettling bald man cloaked in darkness. The mysterious presence of this dark entity looms within the foliage, seemingly keeping a vigilant watch over a tourist teetering perilously close to the brink of the Grand Canyon. This strange image evokes a sense of foreboding and mystery that transcends mere curiosity, prompting deep contemplation about the supernatural forces that may inhabit our world, hidden from plain sight. Amidst the breathtaking backdrop of the Grand Canyon, the juxtaposition of the ethereal dark man against the natural wonder of the landscape creates an atmosphere of eerie intrigue that captivates the imagination. This Reddit user revealed that his uncle and companions embarking on a road trip made a spontaneous decision to halt at a canyon for a brief photo session. Engaged in capturing picturesque moments, they believed themselves to be the exclusive visitors in that secluded area of the canyon during that period. However, it wasn't until several weeks later, upon the development of the photographs, that a startling discovery was made. Hidden among the foliage nearby was an eerie and inexplicable figure, significantly unsettling the group as they scrutinized the images. This unforeseen presence of a mysterious individual lurking in the background added an element of discomfort and uncertainty to what was initially thought to be an ordinary photographic escapade. The strange case of Jennifer and Adriana Wicks. On Sunday, the 27th of March, 2004, 21-year-old Jennifer Wicks and her 2-year-old daughter, Adriana, disappeared from Robertson County, Tennessee, leaving behind one of the most haunting mysteries in the region's history. At the time, Jennifer and Adriana were living with Jennifer's boyfriend, Joey Benton, and his family. Joey was not Adriana's father, but he was the last known person to have seen the young mother and daughter. From the beginning, Joey's account of events raised questions. His initial version of the story was that he had driven Jennifer and Adriana to a gas station, where Jennifer told him to leave her there. He claimed he then moved his vehicle to an adjacent parking lot and waited for about 7 minutes, during which he observed Jennifer and Adriana climb into a 4-door van. Later, his story shifted. They had supposedly gotten into a 4-door Mustang. The issue was that such a model does not exist. When police confronted him about this inconsistency, Joey's father intervened, asserting that Joey, a Mustang enthusiast who owned 2 Mustangs himself, would never make such a claim. Despite this, the original officer's notes documenting Joey's statement remained, but the chief of police later terminated that officer. Joey then altered his account again, saying the vehicle was a white Mustang, before later amending it yet again, suggesting it could have been a different model entirely. These repeated changes left many suspicious of his version of events. Joey also claimed that the day after the alleged gas station drop-off, Jennifer returned to his home to collect some of her belongings. According to him, she explained that she was upset with her mother, not with him, and that her mother had threatened to take Adriana away. Jennifer's mother, Kathy, firmly denied this, acknowledging she had voiced concerns about Jennifer's living arrangements, but insisting she would never threaten to take her granddaughter. Kathy quickly became frustrated with what she described as an indifferent police response. Officers reportedly told her that Jennifer was an adult who could choose to go wherever she pleased and suggested she would likely resurface. In the weeks after the disappearance, Kathy worked tirelessly to distribute missing persons flyers, hoping to spark community involvement. At one local gas station, however, she was told it was against policy to display them. 2 to 3 weeks after Jennifer and Adriana vanished, Joey delivered 6 black trash bags filled with their belongings to Kathy. Inside was Adriana's pink coat, an item that deeply troubled Kathy. The nights in Tennessee during March can be quite cold, and she knew her daughter would never take Adriana out without such an essential item unless she had no plans to be gone long. Nearly a decade later, in 2013, Robertson County's newly appointed sheriff, Bill Holt, vowed to bring renewed attention to the cold case. That same year, the sheriff's department reclassified the case from a missing persons investigation to a homicide investigation, though Kathy was never given a full explanation for this change. Authorities revealed that the Benton property had been searched on 4 separate occasions, including the draining of a pond, yet no definitive evidence had been found. They also stated that no one, including Joey Benton, had been ruled out as a possible suspect. Adding to Kathy's suspicions, she believed her own nephew, who had been close friends with Joey Benton, might have knowledge about the disappearance. Since the case's reclassification, her nephew and sister have refused to speak with her, and reports indicate he has been uncooperative with investigators. Now, More than 20 years later, the mystery of what happened to Jennifer Wicks and little Adriana remains unsolved. The unanswered questions, shifting stories, and strange circumstances have left a permanent ache in the hearts of those who knew and loved them. For Kathy, the search for truth continues, driven by an unshakable determination to find out what happened on that fateful March day when her daughter and granddaughter seemingly vanished without a trace. The mystery of Jeanette Lorraine Wanner. The disappearance of 50-year-old Jeanette Lorraine Wanner in the summer of 2023 has left a community searching for answers and a family desperate for closure. Born on the 4th of October, 1972, Jeanette grew up in Wishek, North Dakota, alongside her identical twin sister and older brother. Known for her quiet nature and strong ties to family, she had experienced significant personal loss in recent years, including the passing of her mother 2 years earlier, her father in February of 2023, and a close cousin in March of the same year. In 2023, Jeanette lived in the Shadow Creek neighborhood of West Fargo, North Dakota, in a house on Bell Boulevard with her senior dog, Scooby, a Chihuahua Terrier mix. She worked from home as a billing and coding specialist for Sanford Health. Divorced and single, she was the mother of a 23-year-old daughter. While she did not have a wide social circle, she was an active member of Holy Cross Catholic Church in West Fargo, where she had been attending services more frequently following her recent family losses. On the 11th of July, 2023, Jeanette was last known to be at home, signing off her work computer at around 2:30 in the afternoon. Shortly afterward, she reportedly left her house with Scooby in her grey 2017 Nissan Rogue, bearing North Dakota plates 261 AZY. That evening, she did not return home, and by the next day, she failed to log in for work, an unusual and concerning break from her routine. Her family quickly grew worried when they could not reach her, eventually filing a missing persons report with the West Fargo Police Department. Strangely, when her home was checked, her purse and cell phone were found left behind, yet her dog, the dog's bed, her wallet, and her vehicle were gone. There has been no activity on her phone or bank accounts since the day she vanished. This added a layer of mystery to her disappearance, as she had no known plans to travel and no indication she intended to leave her life behind. Jeanette had strong ties to the Wishek-Napoleon area of North Dakota and was also familiar with parts of Minnesota, particularly the Duluth and Sauk Lake region, as well as the Leaf Lake area where she once owned a cabin. On the 12th of August, 2023, her license plate was reportedly picked up by a plate reader in Stearns County, Minnesota, near St. Cloud. Unfortunately, the deputy who registered the reading did not stop the vehicle and could not later recall the make or model carrying the plates. Another possible lead emerged when a farmer near St. Mary's Lake, southwest of Valley City, North Dakota, reported that a woman resembling Jeanette arrived at his shop in July, asking for directions to Sweetwater Lake. Authorities took this information seriously and organized a search of 3 lakes in the area using boats, drones, a dive team, and sonar. However, no trace of Jeanette or her vehicle was found. Months later, her case remains unsolved. The combination of abandoned personal belongings, an unexplained journey, and scattered sightings has left investigators puzzled. For her loved ones, the uncertainty has been the most difficult part, as they continue to hope for answers about what happened after Jeanette left home with Scooby on that warm July afternoon. Her disappearance stands as one of the most baffling mysteries in recent North Dakota history. The mystery of Joan Renee Cook. In the quiet town of Salem, Virginia, the disappearance of 44-year-old Joan Renee Cook in January of 2010 has left a deep and lingering mystery. Joan was a devoted mother to her 8-year-old daughter, Ashlyn, and worked as an administrative assistant at Brandon Oaks, a retirement community in nearby Roanoke. Her life, though touched by personal struggles, was anchored by her love for her daughter, making her sudden vanishing all the more perplexing. On the night of Sunday, the 24th of January, 2010, Joan left her home on Elderwood Road at around 11:45 in the evening. The weather was cold and rainy, a night when most people would prefer to stay indoors. She carried with her a green duffel bag, a beige toiletries bag, her purse, wallet, and house keys. She was reportedly headed to visit a friend who lived less than a mile away, but that friend was not home at the time, it has never been confirmed whether Joan actually reached her friend's house. The last confirmed contact Joan had with anyone was a phone call made at 10:30 that night to another friend. Investigators later learned that the final text message sent from Joan's phone came nearly 2 days later, at 5:30 in the morning on the 26th of January. The message, which read, "I love you," was sent to a friend, and cell tower data placed the phone near the 3rd Salem exit outbound along Interstate 81. Authorities have questioned whether Joan herself sent this message, noting that its timing and content seemed unusual. Since then, her phone, bank accounts, and credit cards have shown no activity. Joan had been facing challenges in her personal life. She had battled depression for years and was taking medication. Her marriage to Michael Cook was strained, with the two sleeping in separate bedrooms and experiencing financial difficulties. Though they were still living under the same roof, they were emotionally distant. On several occasions, Joan had left to stay with friends for short periods before returning home, largely for the sake of her daughter. Michael Cook was the last person known to have seen her before she disappeared. When a week passed without Joan calling to check on Ashlyn, Michael filed a missing persons report. The Salem Police Department launched a search, using every resource available to try and locate her. Michael initially cooperated with authorities, answering questions and making himself available. However, in July of 2010, his cooperation abruptly ended. Without notifying police, Michael packed a U-Haul truck with the family's belongings and moved to Des Moines, Iowa. A neighbor, noticing the sudden move, informed investigators. Still, without direct evidence linking Michael to Joan's disappearance, law enforcement was unable to take action against him. Family members, friends, and investigators agree on one thing: Joan would never have willingly abandoned her daughter. At the time, Ashlyn was living in Des Moines with Michael's parents. They allowed Joan's mother, Lucy Huffman, and Joan's sister, Carol Beyer, to maintain a relationship with her. That changed abruptly when Michael learned Lucy and Carol planned to travel to Des Moines to visit Ashlyn. In response, Michael moved his daughter out of his parents' home and cut off all contact with Joan's side of the family. For Joan's family, this act added another layer of pain to an already devastating loss. Not only had they lost contact with Joan under mysterious circumstances, but they were now also cut off from the granddaughter and niece who remained a living connection to her. The years since that cold January night have brought no clear answers. No trace of Joan has been found, and her case remains open. For her loved ones, the hope of finding out what happened to her has never faded. They continue to push for answers, refusing to let her memory be forgotten. More than a decade later, the mystery of Joan Renee Cook's disappearance continues to haunt Salem. A mother's love, a daughter's need, and a family's quest for truth remain at the heart of a story that still waits for resolution. Somewhere, the truth about that night exists, and those who knew and loved Joan remain determined to uncover it. The mystery of Brandy Hope Canopy. In May of 2006, 29-year-old Brandy Hope Canopy was last known to be alive in Mocksville, North Carolina. Her sudden disappearance has left her family and community searching for answers for nearly 2 decades. Brandy was known as a free spirit, someone who valued her independence and occasionally went stretches without contacting her family. Her youngest sister, Lee Scoggin, recalled that when they were younger, it was not unusual for Brandy to go a month without calling. But this time was different. A month turned into years, and Brandy never returned. The family's concern deepened when she failed to attend a funeral they believed she would never have missed. This absence convinced them something was terribly wrong. It was not until April of 2010 that Brandy was officially reported missing, but through investigation, the Davie County Sheriff's Office determined the last time she was seen was the 6th of May, 2006. Brandy left behind 2 daughters, Autumn Skye and Ashley. Skye, who was only 6 years old when her mother vanished, remembers searching for her mother's car everywhere she went, scanning parking lots, hoping for a glimpse that might mean her mother was nearby. But the car never appeared, and it too remained missing for nearly 19 years. Recently, there was a breakthrough when parts of Brandy's car were found at a U-Pullet in Winston-Salem, about 30 minutes from Mocksville. Investigators confirmed the find, but noted that the car itself did not appear to have been the scene of any crime. The discovery came around the same time that Brandy's family provided DNA samples to authorities, ensuring that if future evidence surfaced, it could be matched quickly. Another recent development came from Lee's own memories. She remembered one of the last places she had seen Brandy, a house near Bellews Creek. For years, she and investigators had mistakenly searched around the lake of the same name. Only in 2022 did they realize they should have been searching the creek area. When they finally located the property, Lee instantly recognized it. The house's current and former owners were interviewed, and no evidence of wrongdoing was found there. Still, the discovery provided new names and connections for investigators to pursue. One name that surfaced during the investigation was a man called Eric. Officials believe Brandy may have met him at a bar in Winston-Salem and that he drove a red pickup truck. They have no indication that Eric was involved in her disappearance, but they believe he may have been one of the last people to see her. Tracing her movements in those final days remains critical to solving the mystery. For Brandy's daughters, the years since her disappearance have been a mix of faint memories and enduring longing. Ashley, who was around 10 or 11 at the time, remembers her mother singing in the car, particularly the song I Hope You Dance by Leanne Womack. That song, with its message of living life fully, has become a personal connection between the sisters and their mother. Ashley also remembers the small moments, like her mother washing her hair, that stand out more than any grand event. Investigators have never named any suspects or persons of interest in the case, but they continue to follow every lead. Captain DJ Smith has emphasized that the case has never been shelved. They remain committed to finding anyone who may have been in contact with Brandy around May of 2006. Even the smallest piece of new information could be the key to understanding what happened. Brandy was described as having long, light brown hair, brown eyes, and a slim build at the time she vanished. She also had distinct tattoos, a heart with wings on her right wrist and a rose with a dagger on her shoulder blade. Today, she would be 48 years old. For Lee, Skye, Ashley, and the rest of Brandy's family, hope remains. The recent developments, locating parts of her car and identifying one of the last places she was seen, have reignited determination to find answers. Lee has used social media platforms like TikTok to bring renewed attention to the case, sharing her sister's story with the world and encouraging anyone with information to come forward. The disappearance of Brandy Hope Canape remains one of Davie County's most haunting mysteries. A mother, a sister, a daughter, and a friend vanished without explanation, leaving a void that has lasted for nearly 20 years. While time has passed, the search for truth has never stopped. The family's commitment, combined with the persistence of investigators, keeps the hope alive that one day the pieces will come together and they will finally understand what happened to Brandy in May of 2006. Somewhere the answers exist, in a memory, a detail overlooked, or a story yet untold. Until those answers are found, the case of Brandy Hope Canape will remain open, and her family will continue to fight for the day they can bring her home. The strange case of Sunny Sramek. On the 20th of April, 2019, 18-year-old Sunny Sramek left her hometown of Trenton, Nebraska, with a man named Cliff Coates. Cliff, then 42 years old, was an acquaintance of the family and someone who had always been described as polite, courteous, and respectful in his interactions. The plan, according to Coates, was a simple day trip. They were headed to Omaha to pick up his niece. There was no indication to Sunny's family that this journey would be anything other than routine. Sunny's cell phone was broken at the time, so her mother, Paula, relied on updates through Coates' phone. At one point during the trip, Sunny spoke to her mother and told her everything was going well. She mentioned they were in Holdrege, Nebraska. Paula detected no concern or distress in her daughter's voice. Everything sounded perfectly normal. Later that evening, Paula received a call from Coates. His tone and words would mark the beginning of a nightmare. He claimed that he had gone into a casino in Carter Lake, Iowa, while Sunny remained in his Ford Explorer in the parking lot. When he returned, she was gone. Coates told Paula he had looked for her but could not find her, and then he abruptly ended the call. Panicked, Paula began calling his phone repeatedly, demanding to know where Sunny was. Coates did not respond until the following morning, and when he finally did, his account of events changed. Now he claimed they had stopped for gas somewhere along the interstate. He said he went inside to pay, and when he came back outside, Sunny was gone. Paula immediately pressed him for more details. Where was this gas station? Which interstate exit? Was it the casino or the gas station where he had last seen her? His responses were vague, and he claimed he could not remember. That conversation was the last time Paula had any contact with Coates. Authorities acted quickly. Sonny was listed on the National Crime Information Center database, and the FBI soon joined the investigation. Surveillance footage from the Carter Lake Casino was reviewed, as well as recordings from gas stations along the possible route from Trenton to Omaha. No evidence was found of Sonny ever being at the casino, and there were no confirmed sightings of her along the way. This led investigators to question whether she had ever made it to Carter Lake or even to Omaha at all. Now, years later, the disappearance of Sonny Schramek remains a deeply troubling mystery. Her family has spent more than 4 years searching for answers, with the hope that sharing her story might finally bring new leads. Sonny's case is particularly heartbreaking because there is one person, the last person known to be with her, who could provide crucial information. Yet without clear answers, her family is left in a painful limbo, wondering what truly happened during that trip on the 20th of April. For Paula and those who love Sonny, the fight for the truth continues. They hold on to the hope that someone, somewhere, knows more than they have shared, and that one day, those answers will finally come to light. What happened to Michelle Bernstein Schultz? On the 30th of June, in the year 2022, the boyfriend of Michelle Bernstein Schultz reported her missing to the Phoenix Police Department. According to his account, Michelle had not been feeling well the previous day, so when he returned home from work, he chose not to disturb her. Instead of going upstairs to their bedroom in the northeast Phoenix apartment located near 40th Street and Greenway, he slept on the couch. The following morning, when he went upstairs to check on her, Michelle was gone. Her car, cell phone, purse, dog, and nearly all of her possessions were still in the apartment. Only her backpack and a water bottle appeared to be missing. The absence of her personal items, especially her phone and transportation, raised immediate concern. After discovering she was gone, the boyfriend sent a message to Michelle's mother, worded in a way that suggested he believed the family already knew she was missing. When her relatives tried to call him to gather more information, he allegedly refused to answer any further calls and, according to the family, did not fully cooperate with the investigation. As the 3-year anniversary of Michelle's disappearance approached, her sister, Daniela Smith, spoke publicly about the case in an interview with Channel 10 News in Phoenix. Daniela revealed that before she vanished, Michelle had been looking forward to picking up a settlement check from her personal injury attorney following a car accident. This was a significant sum of money that she never collected. Daniela also stated that Phoenix police had told the family they had too many missing persons cases to investigate each one thoroughly. The family was informed that authorities did not believe foul play was likely, a conclusion that Michelle's loved ones strongly disputed. For Daniela and her mother, the idea that Michelle would willingly disappear made no sense. She was devoted to her 2 sons and loved her dog, and she had plans for her accident settlement. She also left behind her bank cards and had not accessed her accounts since her disappearance. The last known activity from her phone occurred at 4:03 in the afternoon on the 29th of June, the day before she was reported missing. Channel 10 investigator Justin Lin contacted Michelle's boyfriend to ask about the case, but he declined to be interviewed. This refusal only added to the many unanswered questions surrounding the disappearance. For Michelle's family, the past years have been marked by frustration and heartache. They continue to search for answers, unwilling to accept the idea that she simply chose to walk away from her life. Every detail, the settlement money left unclaimed, the sudden silence on her phone, and the possessions she left behind, suggests that something is deeply wrong. The case of Michelle Bernstein Schultz remains unsolved, with lingering uncertainty about what truly happened after that summer evening in northeast Phoenix. For her loved ones, the hope remains that someone, somewhere, knows the missing piece of the puzzle that will finally bring them the answers they have been searching for. The strange case of Echo Lloyd. At 47 years old, Echo Lloyd was embarking on a new chapter in her life. Having recently separated from her husband on amicable terms, she was determined to create a future that reflected her independence and resilience. She had moved into a new home in Edwards, Missouri, where she focused on turning it into a warm and comfortable space. For Echo, this was more than just a change of address. It was a chance to start fresh and rediscover herself. On the 10th of May in the year 2020, Mother's Day, Echo's daughter, Kelsey, decided to visit her mother's home to drop off flowers and a heartfelt card. When she arrived, she noticed that the front door was locked and her mother's car was not in the driveway. Assuming that her mother had simply gone out to run errands, Kelsey placed the flowers and card on the porch, along with a note asking her to call when she returned. That evening, Kelsey waited for her mother's call, but it never came. She thought little of it at first, deciding instead to check in with her the next morning. The following day, Kelsey tried to contact her mother by both cell phone and home phone, but received no answer. At first, she tried not to worry and continued to call throughout the week. However, as days passed with no response, concern began to grow. By the 5th day, Kelsey was convinced that something was wrong. On the 15th of May, Kelsey returned to her mother's home, determined to check in person. This time, Echo's car was in the driveway, yet there was still no answer at the door. Kelsey knocked repeatedly on both the doors and windows, but the house remained silent. Hoping to find her mother nearby, she walked out to Echo's small shed, a place where Echo often worked on home improvement projects, but it was empty. Everything appeared untouched, adding to Kelsey's unease. Seeking answers, Kelsey visited a nearby neighbor to ask if they had seen Echo recently. The neighbor explained that they had not seen her all week and had no idea where she might have gone. Realizing the situation was becoming more troubling, Kelsey decided she needed to get inside the house. Using a rock, she broke a window and climbed inside. Once inside, she was immediately struck by an unsettling sight: a pile of trash and moldy food left out in the open. Echo was known for her cleanliness and attention to order, so this was entirely out of character. The scene suggested to Kelsey that something was not right. As she moved through the home, she discovered her mother's purse containing her wallet, cash, and identification, all still in place. However, her cell phone, keys, a personal protection item, and her daily medication were missing. Among the items she found was a receipt from a local Walmart store, signed by Echo and dated the 10th of May. This led Kelsey to believe her mother had returned home after she herself had left the flowers and card on the porch that day. What happened afterward, however, remained a mystery. Kelsey realized she had not heard her mother's voice since the evening of the 9th of May, and her concern reached a breaking point. She stepped outside and called the local police. Officers arrived, and she filed a missing person report. The Benton County Sheriff's Office began the investigation into Echo's disappearance. From the outset, it was treated as a serious matter. Nearly a week had passed without anyone hearing from her, and there was no clear explanation for her absence. Echo had no known disputes or conflicts that might explain why she would leave suddenly. One of the challenges facing investigators was the lack of a clear starting point. Searches were conducted, but without leads, progress was slow. The case was soon handed over to the Missouri State Highway Patrol Missing Persons Clearinghouse for broader support. Authorities noted that Echo had not used her cell phone or bank cards, and there were no transactions on her accounts. More concerning was the fact that she had not collected her essential daily medication from the pharmacy. Investigators learned that Echo enjoyed foraging for mushrooms in heavily wooded areas, so they considered the possibility that she might have visited such a location. However, some of the land was privately owned, and obtaining permission to search these areas proved difficult. Without clear evidence or witness accounts, the investigation struggled to move forward. Authorities appealed to the public for information, believing that someone might know something about Echo's movements after the 10th of May. For Echo's family, the uncertainty was heartbreaking. They did not believe she would willingly leave behind her loved ones, especially her grandchild. The fact that she left without her identification, money, or other essentials convinced them that her absence was not voluntary. They also feared that circumstances beyond her control may have played a role. To keep her story in the public eye, the family created a Facebook page dedicated to raising awareness about her case. They posted updates, shared photographs, and encouraged anyone with information to come forward. They hoped that by spreading the word far and wide, someone might recall seeing or hearing something that could help bring her home. Echo's disappearance remains a deeply troubling mystery. For her family and community, the lack of answers is a constant source of pain. They continue to advocate for her, determined not to let her case fade from memory. The hope is that persistence, public awareness, and ongoing investigative efforts will one day reveal what happened after that Mother's Day visit in May 2020. Until then, her loved ones remain steadfast in their commitment to finding her and bringing clarity to the questions that have weighed heavily on them for so long. In many ways, Echo's story reflects the emotional toll that unresolved disappearances have on families and communities. It serves as a reminder of the importance of community involvement, public awareness, and the tireless work of investigators in seeking the truth. Her family continues to wait for the day when they can replace uncertainty with understanding and absence with answers. The mystery of Khatt Taylor. Khatt Taylor was 28 years old when she vanished on the 6th of February in the year 2020, and from the very beginning, the circumstances surrounding her disappearance felt unsettling. That afternoon had started out like any other day. She dropped her boyfriend off at a house in Plant City, Florida, a place she had been to before and felt comfortable visiting. There was nothing out of the ordinary, no sign that anything unusual was about to happen. A few hours later, everything changed. Her car was found abandoned in an alarming location, parked directly on train tracks. The driver's side door was wide open, the engine was off, and her purse was missing. It was the kind of scene that instantly raised red flags. The location alone seemed dangerous and inexplicable, leaving many to wonder how and why her car ended up there. Perhaps one of the most heartbreaking details in her case was that no one reported her missing for 3 days. 3 long days passed before any official search began. For her friends and family, that delay was devastating. They loved her, yet somehow this critical time window slipped by, and with each passing hour, any potential trail grew colder. When authorities began their investigation, they retraced her steps from that day. It was discovered that she had sent a text message to her boyfriend before she vanished, described as concerning in tone, though the exact wording has not been publicly shared. Witnesses also came forward, saying they had seen her walking away from the car that afternoon. That image, Khatt walking away from her vehicle, which was left on the train tracks with the door open, has lingered in the minds of many following her case. From that moment on, she seemed to have disappeared without a trace. The area around where her car was found was searched multiple times. Despite the effort, nothing was located in those initial searches that explained what had happened to her. Weeks later, a small but significant discovery was made. One of her shoes was found near a drainage ditch in the same general area. Aside from that, there were no other physical signs of her. As the weeks turned into months, speculation began to grow, particularly online. Some people suggested that something may have happened at the house where she had dropped off her boyfriend earlier that day. Others felt that the scene with her car was too unusual to be the result of a voluntary decision. Many questioned why she would leave her car in such a precarious location with the door open, and if she had walked away intentionally, why she never resurfaced. Authorities have released very little specific information about the case, which has only deepened the mystery. Even now, years later, the lack of clear answers leaves many frustrated. For Khatt's mother, the uncertainty is unbearable. She has been tireless in her search for her daughter, making repeated public appeals for information. She has gone into the community herself to search, distribute flyers, and speak with media outlets, doing everything within her power to keep her daughter's name and story in the public eye. Despite these efforts, there have been no confirmed sightings, no suspects, and no arrests. The trail appears to have gone cold, but those closest to her refuse to give up hope. They believe that someone knows what happened that day, someone who has not yet come forward. Khatt was a young woman full of life, still navigating her way through the challenges of adulthood. Friends and family describe her as vibrant, strong-willed, and deeply loved. For her to vanish so suddenly is something her loved ones still struggle to understand. They are left in a painful limbo, forced to live with unanswered questions while holding on to the hope that one day the truth will come to light. Until that day comes, Khatt Taylor's disappearance remains one of those haunting cases where it feels as though a person has simply vanished into thin air. Her family continues to hope that renewed attention will bring forward the information needed to finally provide answers, and perhaps closure, to a story that has weighed heavily on them since that February afternoon. The mystery of Danielle Imbo and Richard Petrone Jr. On the 19th of February in the year 2005, two friends, 34-year-old Danielle Imbo and 35-year-old Richard Petrone Jr., made last-minute plans to spend an evening together. Although the pair had dated in the past, this was the first time they had seen each other in quite a while. Both had been through significant personal changes in recent years, and the night promised nothing more than a pleasant reunion. They met friends at a popular Philadelphia bar, and by all accounts, the evening was relaxed and enjoyable. There was no indication that anything unusual was about to happen. Shortly before midnight, Richard and Danielle left together. It would be the last confirmed sighting of either of them. An extensive search and a lengthy investigation would follow, with the Federal Bureau of Investigation eventually suggesting that their disappearance may have involved a targeted act, possibly even a plot orchestrated by others. However, tangible evidence proving what happened remained elusive, and the case eventually reached a standstill. Danielle Imbo was born on the 7th of August in the year 1970 in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to her parents John and Phyllis Otterbury. Her father, a singer who performed under the name Johnny October, gained recognition in the 1950s as a member of the doo-wop group The Four Dates, which later became a backup group for popular artist Frankie Avalon. Growing up in a musical household, Danielle developed a love for singing and attending concerts. She was also a devoted reader, especially of mystery novels, and she worked as a loan processor. Friends and family remember her as warm, outgoing, and above all, a caring mother to her young son, Joe Jr., who was just 18 months old at the time of her disappearance. Richard Petrone Jr. was born on the 29th of August in the year 1969, also in Philadelphia. He was the son of Richard and Margaret Petrone and was known for being hardworking, easygoing, and deeply committed to his family. He was a single father, raising his 14-year-old daughter Angela, and worked at his family's bakery, Viking Pastries, in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. Like Danielle, Richard was a music enthusiast, particularly fond of rock, and he was also a passionate sports fan who followed the Chicago Bears. Danielle's marriage to her husband, Joe Imbo, had ended abruptly in 2004. Joe had traveled to Houston to attend the Super Bowl, leaving Danielle and their baby at home with colds. Upon his return, he announced that he had met someone else on the plane and wanted a divorce. Danielle, though hurt, complied and began the process of separation. The emotional toll was evident. She began smoking heavily and lost a considerable amount of weight. It was during this time that Richard re-entered her life. The two had known each other for many years, growing up in the same neighborhood. Danielle had been close friends with Richard's sister, though she and Richard had lost touch over the years. When they reconnected, there was an immediate spark, and they began dating. Richard was deeply committed to the relationship, but Danielle, still in the midst of her divorce, eventually decided it was best to pause the romance so she could focus on her child and on finalizing the legal separation. Richard respected her decision, though it was difficult for him. Not long after, Joe Imbo's new relationship ended, and he asked Danielle to consider reconciliation. Although she still had some affection for him, Danielle felt that divorce remained the right path. Their discussions on the matter were often tense, with disagreements becoming heated. On the 19th of February, 2005, Richard was dining alone at a bar when he decided to go hear live music. He did not want to attend alone, so he called his sister Christine to invite her along. She declined, but passed the invitation to Danielle, who happened to be visiting her at the time. Joe had their son for the weekend and was out of town. Richard and Danielle had not spoken for weeks, but to his surprise, she accepted. Richard picked Danielle up in his 2001 black Dodge Dakota, and together they went to a venue called Abilene's on Philadelphia's South Street, where they met his friends Anthony and Michelle. The group listened to a live band, and by all accounts the atmosphere was cheerful. Witnesses later recalled that Richard and Danielle seemed happy, sitting close together and sharing kisses. They even compared their schedules for the following weekend, suggesting the possibility of another outing. When Anthony and Michelle invited them to another bar, they declined, explaining that they had early mornings ahead and wanted to call it a night. Around 11:45 that evening, they prepared to leave, with Richard saying he would drive Danielle home to Mount Laurel before heading back to South Philadelphia. They walked out together into the cool night air and vanished without a trace. The next day, Danielle missed a hair appointment, and both her phone and Richard's went straight to voicemail. Concern grew quickly among their families. Danielle's brother, John Otterborough, went to her home using a spare key. Inside, everything appeared normal. There were no signs of a struggle or sudden departure. However, by 3 o'clock that afternoon, when Joe Jr. was usually returned by his father, Danielle had still not come home. John began to fear something was wrong. Both Danielle and Richard were known to be close to their families and maintained regular contact. It was highly unusual for either of them to go silent. That afternoon, when Joe arrived to drop off their son, Danielle was not there, and her family was visibly concerned. Hours passed with no word, prompting them to contact the authorities and file missing persons reports for both Danielle and Richard. The search began almost immediately. That night, John and Richard's father drove the streets between Philadelphia and Mount Laurel, checking highways, side streets, and even waterways. They scanned the Walt Whitman, Ben Franklin, and Betsy Ross bridges, hoping to spot Richard's truck. At sunrise, they returned home empty-handed. The following day, friends and volunteers organized a grid search covering 100 miles in every direction, carrying photographs of Richard's truck and its license plate number. John even paid over $1,000 to hire a Camden police officer to operate a helicopter to search from the air. Despite these extensive efforts, there was no sign of the couple or the vehicle. In the months and years that followed, investigators explored various theories. The Federal Bureau of Investigation eventually suggested that foul play may have been involved, potentially in the form of a planned act. Still, without physical evidence, the mystery remained unresolved. The disappearance of Danielle Imbo and Richard Petrone Jr. has since become one of the most baffling unsolved cases in the region, leaving their families searching for answers and hoping that someday the truth will emerge. The case continues to resonate not only because of the mystery, but also because of the deep loss felt by their loved ones. For the families, the absence is felt every day, and the unanswered questions weigh heavily. The hope remains that with time, persistence, and renewed attention, someone will come forward with the information that can finally bring closure to a night that began with music and laughter, but ended in silence. The strange case of Charles Browning III. 30-year-old Charles Browning III was last seen in Mobile, Alabama, on the 27th of September in the year 2019. His disappearance began in an ordinary setting, yet it quickly became a mystery that left his family searching for answers. That morning, Charles and his common-law wife stopped at the International House of Pancakes, located at Rangeline Road in Tillman's Corner. Around 9 o'clock, the two arrived at the restaurant. His wife stepped inside to use the restroom, while Charles remained outside. When she returned only a short while later, he was gone. No one saw him leave, and from that moment onward, there have been no confirmed sightings of him. He had no vehicle and was not carrying a cell phone at the time, leaving it uncertain whether he walked away on his own or left with someone else. Loved ones have shared that in the period leading up to his disappearance, Charles had been acting out of character and showing signs of paranoia. Despite this, those closest to him emphasized that it was not like him to vanish without telling anyone where he was going. He was a father to 5 children, including 2 infant sons, and was deeply connected to his family. For him to disappear without a word was unusual and troubling. His direction of travel remains unknown. Searches and inquiries have not provided clear answers, and the circumstances surrounding his disappearance continue to puzzle both investigators and his loved ones. His case is still classified as a missing person case and remains unsolved. Charles Browning III was born on the 17th of May in the year 1989. He is a white male with brown hair and green eyes, standing 5 feet 11 inches tall and weighing approximately 215 pounds. At the time he went missing, he had a goatee. Distinctive physical features include pierced nipples and a large scar that runs across his back, starting from his right shoulder blade and ending beneath his left ribcage. He also has multiple tattoos, each with personal meaning. The name Tara is inked on the back of his neck, while his chest carries a portrait of his infant. His upper left arm bears a red rose and heart with the word Mum on a banner, and his upper right arm features a red devil wearing a hat. On his lower leg, there is an image of a woman with a banner, and across his abdomen is the phrase, "Loyalty, Omerta, Respect." One forearm has a koi fish design, while the other bears the words, "In loving memory of Nan." For his family, each passing day without answers is a painful reminder of his absence. They continue to hope that someone will come forward with information that can help them understand what happened after he vanished from that parking lot in Tillman's Corner. Until that day comes, the mystery of Charles Browning III's disappearance remains, leaving loved ones to hold on to hope and determination in their search for the truth. The mystery of Celinda Jean Weingar. On the 21st of March, 1979, Celinda Jean Weingar, a high school student from Burlington, Vermont, stepped out of her family's home on Forest Street with the intention of visiting a friend. She was never seen by her family again. What followed would become one of the most quietly unsettling and unresolved mysteries in Vermont's history. Celinda was the youngest of 6 children, raised in a devout Roman Catholic household. With a 13-year age gap between her and the next oldest sibling, she was often described as the baby of the family. Her upbringing was strict but loving, and she attended Burlington High School at the time of her disappearance. Those closest to her described her as bright, gentle, and slightly reserved, though in the months leading up to her vanishing, a noticeable shift began to emerge in her social circle. Family members grew concerned when Celinda started spending time with a new group of individuals, people she had not previously been associated with. The change came with troubling consequences. Her family received a series of menacing phone calls during this time. These calls were vague in content but ominous in tone, and they only stopped once the family changed their number to an unlisted line. Whether these calls were connected to Celinda's disappearance remains unknown, but the timing has never sat comfortably with her relatives. Soon after she failed to return home, the Weingar family received a chilling anonymous phone call. The voice on the other end claimed that Celinda had been taken and that her remains would be found in the Winooski River. Law enforcement did not search the river in response to the call, and the tip was ultimately left unexplored and unverified. Years later, in 1985, a friend of one of Celinda's sisters claimed to have discovered a clump of blonde hair while fishing in that same river. Whether this discovery was ever formally investigated remains unclear. No physical evidence tying Celinda to the area was ever recovered. Despite the disturbing nature of these clues, the official stance from law enforcement for many years was that Celinda had most likely run away voluntarily. This theory was never fully embraced by her family, who believed she would not have left without telling someone, especially without taking any of her belongings or giving a more detailed explanation. There were occasional reports of sightings over the years. One relative claimed to have seen a young woman resembling Celinda standing silently at the back of a church during her father's funeral in 1981. The woman reportedly left before anyone could approach her. Like the others, this sighting was never confirmed. Still, the possibility that Celinda may have been alive, quietly watching from a distance, haunts her family to this day. Now, decades later, both of Celinda's parents have passed away without ever learning what became of their daughter. Her siblings, however, have not given up hope. They continue to search for answers, speak her name, and share her story, believing that someone, somewhere, may still know what happened. Celinda Jean Weingar's case remains unsolved. The unsolved case of James Charles Stanford. James Charles Stanford vanished under mysterious circumstances on the 1st of May 1971. His disappearance has puzzled both family and amateur sleuths for decades, not only because of how little is known about his final movements, but also because of a peculiar detail that emerged the following year. In the 1972 high school yearbook, James appeared in the juniors section, raising immediate questions about the timeline of his disappearance. While it's not uncommon for dates in missing persons cases to be misremembered or misrecorded, this photographic evidence appears to contradict the accepted date of when James went missing. James, who had expressed an interest in going to a convent in either California or Texas, had apparently told family members of his intentions before he disappeared. Whether this was a deeply thought-out plan or simply an idea he had been toying with remains uncertain. What is clear is that no trace of him has been found since. Many who have reviewed his case suspect he never made it to any convent. Some believe he may have attempted to hitchhike and ended up in a dangerous or vulnerable situation that ultimately led to his disappearance. A widely discussed theory is that James may in fact be the unidentified individual known as Clinton John Doe, discovered in 1972. Clinton John Doe bore a striking resemblance to James and matched his physical description. Furthermore, the unidentified individual had items in his possession that aligned with what James likely carried at the time. One of those items was a pay stub from a place where James was believed to have worked, suggesting a strong possible link between the two identities. DNA testing is currently underway to compare samples from living family members in hopes that modern science can confirm or deny this possibility. Statements from family members add emotional weight and personal insight into the mystery. A relative shared that James had a girlfriend, and according to her family, they drove him out of the St. Louis area, saying he wanted to go to California. However, his family has always doubted that he truly planned to head west. According to them, James was dropped off on the side of the road and never seen again. Another family member noted that the last time James was seen was on his birthday, just days before he went missing. There is speculation within the family that something may have happened involving the girlfriend's relatives, possibly an accident while walking along a highway or some form of foul play that was never reported. James did not appear to have a clear or structured destination in mind, which makes his case even more difficult to trace. If he was truly hitchhiking with no fixed plan, it's entirely plausible that his body ended up far from his point of origin, making recovery and identification more complex. The idea that he could be Clinton John Doe is compelling, and if confirmed, it would finally offer some closure to a case that has lingered in uncertainty for over 50 years. As of today, James Charles Stanford would be 70 years old. Whether he managed to start a new life in anonymity or met a tragic fate, the mystery of his disappearance remains unresolved. The strange case of Jojo Boswell. Jojo Boswell, a 19-year-old Indigenous woman, vanished under troubling and mysterious circumstances shortly after her release from jail in Owatonna, Minnesota. On the afternoon of the 11th of July, 2005, she was last seen walking near Mills Fleet Farm, just off Interstate 35, between approximately 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She had just been released from the Steele County Jail minutes earlier. Witnesses observed her interacting with an unidentified person. The two spoke briefly before walking off together. From that moment onward, Jojo Boswell disappeared without a trace. Her sudden vanishing has haunted her family and the community for nearly 2 decades. Boswell's interests included drawing, dancing, and music. She was described as a creative, vibrant young woman who had much to offer. Prior to her disappearance, she was known to spend time in Minneapolis, particularly around 31st Avenue and 4th Avenue. Those familiar with her say she had hopes for a better future and had many dreams still left to fulfill. What makes this case especially frustrating is how quickly she disappeared after being released. It raises uncomfortable questions about what safety measures, if any, were in place to ensure her well-being upon her release. Though she had just stepped out of a correctional facility, Jojo was not a person society should forget. She was a daughter, a friend, and part of a wider community that continues to seek answers. Despite a reported sighting and brief interaction shortly after her release, authorities have not identified the individual who was last seen with her. No physical evidence or reliable leads have emerged in the years since her disappearance. The lack of information has left investigators with very little to work with, and her case has since grown cold. The Minneapolis Police Department took over the investigation due to Jojo's previous presence in the city, but even with more resources and attention, there has been no confirmed progress in locating her or uncovering what happened. Her case is not an isolated one. Indigenous women have been disappearing across North America at alarming rates, often without the attention and urgency that other missing persons receive. Jojo's story, sadly, reflects this larger pattern of overlooked disappearances. Her family and community continue to advocate for justice, holding on to hope that someone, somewhere, knows what happened that day and will eventually come forward. After all these years, the mystery surrounding Jojo Boswell remains unresolved. Her disappearance on what should have been a routine day, just minutes after gaining her freedom, has become a symbol of the many unknowns surrounding missing Indigenous women. While time has passed, her name continues to be spoken by those who love her. Until answers are found, Jojo's story serves as a painful reminder of how some individuals seem to vanish into thin air, leaving behind questions that deserve resolution and a community that refuses to forget her. North Korea is known for its secretive and isolated nature, which has led to numerous unsolved mysteries and unanswered questions over the years. While the secretive regime tightly controls information, some mysteries have managed to capture international attention. The mystery of the North Korean ghost ships. In an extensive inquiry, Japanese authorities are probing a series of mysterious vessels discovered adrift along the country's shores, each carrying individuals who had passed away on board. The investigation is focused on unraveling the mysteries surrounding these unsettling occurrences. As of now, a total of 11 wooden boats have been discovered, with some of them showing significant signs of damage. Authorities are currently conducting a thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding the appearance of the boats, with a particular focus on tracing their origin. In a distressing revelation, a Coast Guard spokesperson disclosed that several boats have been discovered containing as many as 20 individuals on board. This chilling discovery sheds light on the harrowing reality faced by individuals attempting perilous sea crossings. In recent years, multiple vessels have been discovered in the waters of the Sea of Japan, also referred to as the East Sea in North and South Korea. These findings occurred both this month and the preceding one, raising intriguing questions about the origins and intentions of the boats. Numerous vessels have been towed to ports in Japan. However, the process of identifying the individuals on board remains ongoing. The most recent boat that has been located was brought to land at Fukui port, revealing the presence of 3 sets of remains on board. The Maritime Patrol Unit of the Coastal Defense Force identified the vessel approximately 100 kilometres, equivalent to 62 miles away from the shore. The Tokyo Broadcasting System made a statement indicating that the discovered remains were in an advanced state of decomposition. Japan's national broadcaster, NHK, recently disclosed that a fragment of fabric suspected to originate from a North Korean flag was discovered within a vessel. Additionally, inscriptions indicating the Korean People's Army were noted on the exterior of the same vessel. The presence of these peculiar items has sparked intrigue and speculation among experts and officials, prompting a deeper investigation into the origins and implications of such findings. Upon thorough examination, specialists probing the incident have put forth the notion that these vessels and remains might be linked to fishermen from North Korea. In the wake of multiple poor agricultural seasons, the isolated nation is actively engaged in efforts to enhance the quantity of fish caught by its fishermen. Following a series of unfavorable harvests, the nation has embarked on initiatives to boost productivity. The navigational instruments used for fishing are intricate to operate and are notably devoid of essential tools like radars. According to insights shared by a maritime specialist with NHK, these vessels might have been adrift for an extended period, possibly spanning several months, with their locations remaining unknown to anyone. In more extensive discussions, individuals have suggested that the boats might represent individuals striving to flee from the authoritarian regime of the communist state. North Korean vessels frequently appear in the coastal communities of Japan, with an average of around 12 ships from North Korea washing ashore annually along the beaches and harbours. The majority of these ships arrive empty, lacking any signs of life, or containing remnants of wood fuel. On some occasions, these vessels are discovered to house crews of deceased individuals, intensifying concerns about the mysteries associated with North Korea, known for its strict military presence and secretive activities. The presence of these vessels evokes a sense of unease and raises questions about the unknown events unfolding within the borders of North Korea. These occurrences serve as a poignant reminder of the strange and potentially perilous nature of the region, leaving observers pondering the stories and fates of those who embarked on these eerie journeys. The unsettling discoveries on these vessels serve as a stark testament to the complex and shadowy realm that is North Korea, prompting speculation and instilling a sense of foreboding in those who bear witness to these eerie maritime encounters. In the last year alone, a staggering 14 mysterious ghost ships have washed ashore on Japanese coasts, carrying a grim tally of over 30 deceased individuals. These unsettling occurrences continue to baffle Japanese authorities, leaving them grappling with the perplexing question of why these vessels are drifting to their shores as well as seeking to unravel the mysteries surrounding the unfortunate fate of those on board. The relentless arrival of these ghost ships provokes a sense of unease and curiosity among the investigators, who remain puzzled by the lack of concrete explanations for these haunting phenomena. The prevailing consensus suggests that the individuals found on these boats are likely defectors, individuals who attempted to flee the rule of North Korea only to meet their tragic demise and be disposed of at sea. However, a noted Japanese specialist in North Korean affairs, Satoru Miyamoto, presents a contrasting viewpoint. Miyamoto posits that these deceased individuals could be fishermen, potentially hailing from the commercial sector of North Korea. This perspective challenges the widely accepted belief regarding the origins of these mysterious boats and the fate of those on board. Miyamoto's assertion introduces a compelling alternative narrative, questioning the prevalent assumption of defection-related tragedies. Miyamoto holds the belief that the fishermen in question lack any background in military or naval practices, indicating a probable scenario of them becoming disoriented at sea, leading to a tragic fate amidst the harsh marine environment. The vast expanse of the ocean is prone to severe and unpredictable weather conditions, including the menacing threat of typhoons. The potential perils faced by these individuals are harsh, spanning from starvation and hypothermia to the risk of accidental falls overboard. Kim Jong-un's disappearance. In the realm of international politics, few figures loom as large as North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Since assuming power following the passing of his father, Kim Jong-il, in 2011, Kim Jong-un has commanded attention with his authoritarian rule, nuclear ambitions, and unpredictable behavior. Yet, despite his prominence on the world stage, Kim Jong-un's mysterious disappearances from the public eye on multiple occasions have sparked speculation about his health and the stability of his regime. The first notable instance of Kim Jong-un's disappearance occurred in 2014, when he vanished from public view for over 6 weeks, leading to rampant speculation about his health and the stability of the North Korean regime. During his absence, rumors swirled about potential health issues, ranging from a bout of gout to a more serious medical condition, such as a heart attack or stroke. The amount of information from North Korean state media only served to fuel speculation, leading to widespread rumors and conjecture about Kim Jong-un's whereabouts and well-being. In the absence of concrete information, analysts and observers scrutinized every available piece of evidence for clues about Kim Jong-un's health and the implications for the North Korean regime. Satellite imagery of Kim Jong-un's residence and other key locations in Pyongyang was analyzed for signs of unusual activity or increased security measures, while defectors and sources within North Korea were interrogated for any insights they could provide. Yet, despite these efforts, the true nature of Kim Jong-un's disappearance remained shrouded in mystery, leaving observers to speculate about the potential implications for North Korea's future. Kim Jong-un's disappearance from the public eye resurfaced in 2020 when he vanished once again amid rumors of failing health. Speculation reached fever pitch when Kim Jong-un missed the celebration of his grandfather's birthday on April 15th, a significant event in the North Korean calendar that is typically marked by lavish festivities and displays of loyalty to the ruling Kim dynasty. As days turned into weeks without any sign of Kim Jong-un, speculation about his health and the stability of the North Korean regime reached a fever pitch, with rumors swirling about potential succession plans and power struggles within the ruling elite. The uncertainty surrounding Kim Jong-un's disappearance underscored the opaque and secretive nature of the North Korean regime, where information is tightly controlled and dissent is ruthlessly suppressed. In the absence of reliable information from official channels, rumors and speculation run rampant, leading to a climate of uncertainty and anxiety both within North Korea and among the international community. The reappearance of Kim Jong-un weeks later, seemingly healthy and in control, did little to quell speculation about his health or the stability of his regime. While North Korean state media sought to portray him as a strong and capable leader, questions lingered about the true nature of his absence and the extent of his power within the regime. Some analysts speculated that Kim Jong-un's disappearance may have been a deliberate ploy to gauge loyalty and weed out potential rivals, while others suggested that it may have been a genuine health scare that underscored the fragility of his regime. The underground tunnels of North Korea. In the shadowy depths beneath the surface of North Korea, lies a labyrinthine network of tunnels that serves as a testament to the regime's ingenuity, paranoia, and determination to safeguard its sovereignty at all costs. These underground passages, spanning hundreds of kilometers and burrowing deep into the earth, are a testament to the regime's commitment to secrecy and self-preservation, offering a glimpse into the hidden world of one of the world's most secretive and authoritarian states. The origins of North Korea's underground tunnels can be traced back to the Korean War, when the regime of Kim Il-sung embarked on an ambitious program to construct a network of secret passages beneath the demilitarized zone that separates North and South Korea. These tunnels, known as the Third Infiltration Tunnel and the Second Infiltration Tunnel, were designed to facilitate covert incursions into South Korea and serve as a means of surprise attack in the event of hostilities between the two Koreas. The Third Infiltration Tunnel, discovered by South Korean forces in 1978, is perhaps the most well-known of North Korea's underground passages. Measuring over 1.6 kilometers in length and located just 44 kilometers from Seoul, the tunnel was designed to accommodate the rapid movement of troops and equipment and enable surprise attacks on South Korean territory. Despite North Korea's claims that the tunnel was intended for coal mining, evidence suggests otherwise, with its dimensions and construction consistent with military use. The discovery of the Third Infiltration Tunnel sparked alarm and outrage in South Korea, leading to increased tensions and a heightened sense of vigilance along the DMZ. In response, South Korean forces embarked on a program of tunnel detection and countermeasures, employing advanced technology and surveillance techniques to uncover and neutralize any further incursions by North Korean forces. Despite these efforts, North Korea's underground tunneling program continued unabated, with subsequent discoveries revealing the existence of additional tunnels beneath the DMZ. The Second Infiltration Tunnel, discovered in 1975, and the Fourth Infiltration Tunnel, discovered in 1990, are believed to be part of a larger network of underground passages designed to facilitate covert operations and surprise attacks on South Korean territory. In addition to their military significance, North Korea's underground tunnels also serve as a means of protecting the regime's leadership and preserving its ability to govern in the event of a conflict or uprising. Deep beneath the surface of Pyongyang, the capital city of North Korea, lies a sprawling complex of underground bunkers and command centers that are designed to withstand even the most devastating of military attacks. These underground facilities, known as the Underground Palace or the Metro of Pyongyang, are believed to house key government officials, military commanders, and strategic assets, ensuring the regime's survival in the event of a nuclear strike or conventional invasion. Equipped with state-of-the-art communications equipment, food and water supplies, and medical facilities, these underground bunkers are a testament to the regime's determination to maintain control and resist external threats at all costs. Yet, despite the regime's efforts to conceal the existence of its underground tunnels and bunkers, evidence of their existence has gradually come to light through defector testimonies, satellite imagery, and the occasional discovery by South Korean forces. While the true extent of North Korea's underground network remains shrouded in secrecy, it is clear that these tunnels play a critical role in the regime's military strategy and its ability to withstand external pressure. In recent years, North Korea's underground tunnels have garnered renewed attention amid escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula and the regime's ongoing development of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles. As the threat of conflict looms ever larger, the existence of these tunnels serves as a sobering reminder of the regime's willingness to resort to extreme measures to ensure its survival and maintain its grip on power. While some of these tunnels have been discovered and made public, the full extent of North Korea's tunneling activities remains a mystery. Mysterious unmanned plane spotted in North Korea. In the latest commercial satellite images analyzed by NK-Pro, a significant discovery emerged. A sizable, advanced North Korean military drone made its debut. This milestone indicates an ongoing exploration of unmanned aerial vehicle technology within the nation, aligning closely with the strategic objectives set by leader Kim Jong-un. The unveiling of this new drone serves as a testament to North Korea's continuous efforts to advance its UAV capabilities and strengthen its military arsenal. The recently unveiled aircraft seems to boast a wingspan of approximately 115 feet, equal to 35 meters, marking a significant increase in size compared to a model with a wingspan of roughly 65 feet or 20 meters that was observed on the runway of the Pangyon Airbase by NK Pro on June 3rd. This event marked the first instance where the Democratic People's Republic of Korea has been recorded testing a contemporary drone. The most recent satellite imagery from Planet Labs reveals the presence of an aircraft sporting slender wings that bear a striking resemblance to established foreign drone models. This aircraft was spotted in close proximity to the location where a smaller aircraft was observed just last week, situated at the eastern terminus of the runway. In the realm of aerial technology, there exists a foreign counterpart that bears a striking resemblance when viewed from above to the RQ-4A Global Hawk, an aircraft conceptualized by the United States during the late 1990s. This foreign model mirrors the dimensions of the Global Hawk in terms of wingspan. In addition to the presence of the aircraft, various vehicles were observed in the vicinity of the runway. According to an expert interviewed by NK Pro recently, the vehicles or items spotted in similar locations on June 3rd might have been equipped with specialized tools like antennas essential for the testing of drone flights. This suggests the possibility of conducting drone flight experiments in the area. The specialized equipment carried by these vehicles could play a crucial role in facilitating and monitoring the drone testing processes. The detailed imagery provided by Planet Labs did not indicate any activities related to testing at the airbase. However, during this period, there was observed ongoing activity focusing on repainting the runway stripes, suggesting maintenance and improvement work being conducted at the airbase. North Korean official media outlets have remained silent on advancements in the country's drone technology since January 2021, following Kim Jong-un's call for the production of unmanned striking equipment and reconnaissance drones capable of covering a distance of 310 miles or 500 kilometers by the conclusion of 2025. This directive from the North Korean leader emphasized the urgency of enhancing their unmanned aerial capabilities within a specific time frame to meet strategic objectives. The purpose behind the presence of the two aircraft observed at Pangyon Airbase this month is ambiguous as to whether they are designated for combat operations or reconnaissance missions. The developmental phase of every aircraft remains undisclosed, adding a layer of mystery to the situation. It is anticipated that state media will refrain from revealing specific information or arranging an inspection by Kim Jong-un until the aircraft projects have significantly progressed. This secretive approach suggests a deliberate strategy to maintain confidentiality and keep crucial details under wraps until a later stage. The mysterious demise of Otto Warmbier. The untimely demise of Otto Warmbier on Monday, June 19th, sheds light on the intricacies of the North Korean regime. His situation stands out due to its rarity, as North Korea typically does not subject its foreign detainees to physical abuse resulting in long-lasting harm. The details surrounding the 22-year-old student's ordeal during his roughly 18 months of confinement in North Korea, which commenced in January of the previous year, remain largely elusive. Following his repatriation to the United States mere days before his passing, medical professionals attending to Warmbier highlighted a significant loss of brain tissue that occurred during his time in North Korea. They noted from MRI scans that he likely sustained a brain injury soon after receiving a harsh 15-year sentence of hard labor in March 2016. Despite thorough examinations, there were no compelling indications of physical assault, coercion, or similar mistreatment. North Korean medical personnel attributed his condition to botulism and the consumption of a sleeping aid that rendered him unresponsive, whereas American doctors found no substantiating evidence of botulism in their assessments. During his ordeal in North Korean captivity, the circumstances surrounding Warmbier's treatment remain shrouded in mystery. However, it is sadly not uncommon for individuals to endure inhumane conditions under the North Korean regime. The extended duration of Warmbier's captivity, despite his deteriorating health, highlights a troubling disregard for basic human rights when political agendas take precedence. This situation epitomizes the harsh reality faced by individuals detained in North Korea, where humanitarian principles often take a back seat to political expediency. The lack of transparency regarding Warmbier's treatment underscores the systematic opacity and cruelty prevalent within the North Korean detention system. This incident serves as a stark reminder of the grave human rights abuses that persist within the confines of North Korean detention facilities, where individuals like Warmbier are left vulnerable to the whims of a regime. In the midst of the international jests aimed at the leader and personality cult of North Korea, it is crucial not to overlook the grim reality that the country is still deeply entrenched in the grip of a severe police state. Within the confines of North Korea, countless individuals face atrocities comparable to, or in some instances, surpassing the ordeal endured by Warmbier. The labor camps in North Korea stand as stark reminders of the ruthless regime, where individuals find themselves incarcerated for actions that would not even be considered criminal in most Western legal systems. Instead, the North Korean government deems these acts as politically subversive, such as the mere act of introducing foreign cultural influences. It is unimaginable in any other context than that of an oppressively totalitarian regime for a young man like Warmbier to receive a 15-year sentence of grueling labor for attempting to pilfer a propaganda banner. The North Korean authorities alleged that he had colluded with a church in his homeland to orchestrate the overthrow of the state system, yet they failed to provide substantial evidence to support their claims. This incident exemplifies the extreme measures and unjust practices that prevail in North Korea, shedding light on the deep-rooted repression and lack of basic freedoms endured by its populace. In trying to comprehend the North Korean response to the situation, the strategic rationale behind their actions appears perplexing. Throughout history, North Korea has exhibited a pattern of releasing detained Americans subsequent to visits by significant American dignitaries. An illustrative instance of this occurred in August 2009, when American journalists Una Lee and Laura Ling regained their freedom from North Korean captivity. This liberation transpired subsequent to a visit to Pyongyang by former President Bill Clinton, who orchestrated their repatriation after their capture in March of the same year. Another noteworthy incident transpired in 2014 when the then Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, journeyed to Pyongyang with the objective of facilitating the return of imprisoned Americans Kenneth Bae and Todd Miller. Remarkably, during his interactions, Clapper noted the discontent of his North Korean counterparts upon realizing that his visit was not aimed at securing any diplomatic advantages for Pyongyang. This sequence of events underscores the intricate and enigmatic dynamics involved in North Korea's handling of such cases. North Korea's treatment of Otto Warmbier starkly contrasts with its usual behavior, as it seemingly served no clear purpose for the regime. Contrary to North Korea's claims of releasing him on humanitarian grounds, the prevailing belief now is that the regime's intention was merely to prevent his death within their borders. The repercussions of this incident appear to offer little benefit to North Korea, while the evident losses are substantial. The tourism sector, which Kim Jong-un aimed to develop, is likely to suffer, particularly in terms of American visitors. Annually, around 5,000 Westerners travel to North Korea, with approximately 1,000 of them originating from the United States. Following the imprisonment of 2 US journalists in 2009, a total of 14 Americans have been detained in North Korea, leaving 3 currently incarcerated. Amid these events, Young Pioneer Tours, the agency responsible for Warmbier's trip, has already declared that they will no longer include American tourists in their future expeditions. The US government may potentially impose measures to dissuade or prohibit travel to North Korea, similar to previous restrictions on visiting Cuba, which could soon be reinstated. Notably, every tourist spending money in North Korea indirectly supports the regime's operations, including its nuclear and missile programs, given that all tour operators within North Korea are affiliated with the state. While some suggest that tourism could foster cultural exchange and mutual respect, it is interesting to observe that the US government expressed its intent in 1998 to facilitate group travel and exchanges with North Korea, reflecting support for policies of reconciliation with South Korea. Tourism and interactions with North Korea remain a topic shrouded in uncertainty when it comes to their beneficial outcomes. Over a significant period, discussions have occurred intermittently between representatives from North Korea and the United States, involving both current and former governmental figures in unofficial capacities. Recent dialogues have centered on critical issues such as the situation of American prisoners in North Korea, all while North Korea persists in its advancements in nuclear and missile tests, demonstrating a heightened level of technical sophistication. The advocates within the United States, supporting diplomatic discussions with North Korea, now find themselves navigating an even more challenging landscape following the tragic passing of Warmbier. The outlook for official US engagement with North Korea appears increasingly grim, particularly as the current administration would be reluctant to extend any concessions to a regime whose actions resulted in the death of one of its citizens. In the intricate dynamics of the North Korean power structure, it is plausible that certain factions within the regime advocated for the release of Otto Warmbier long before his health reached a critical state, while more rigid elements resisted until his condition became irreversible. It is widely acknowledged that the North Korean healthcare system falls significantly short of meeting Western standards. However, delving into the rationale behind North Korea's decisions at that juncture remains purely conjectural. It is only through speculation that we can attempt to comprehend the underlying factors. It is conceivable that the true motives and deliberations that culminated in the tragic demise of Warmbier will only come to light if someday the archives of the North Korean secret police are unveiled. This potential revelation holds the promise of shedding light on the circumstances and decisions that ultimately led to the fateful outcome. In 2015, a mysterious event took place near the International Space Station, capturing the attention of UFO researchers and space enthusiasts around the world. A man by the name of Toby Lund was watching the live stream when he noticed a large, unidentified object appearing near one of the station's cameras. Thinking quickly, he managed to take a screenshot of the object before the live feed mysteriously cut out. His quick reaction ensured that the sighting was documented before it could disappear from public view. What made this event particularly suspicious was the timing of the stream going offline. Over the years, many UFO enthusiasts have pointed out that NASA's live feed has an unusual tendency to cut out whenever strange objects appear near the space station. This has led to speculation that the space agency is actively censoring footage that might provide evidence of extraterrestrial craft. In this particular case, the object seen in the image was described as a large, triangular-shaped craft, one of the most commonly reported UFO shapes across the world. When news of this sighting spread, some media outlets attempted to reach out to NASA for clarification. However, their efforts were met with silence. No official response was given, and NASA declined to address or explain the nature of the object. This lack of transparency only fueled more speculation, leading many to believe that the space agency was deliberately avoiding the topic. If the object had been something ordinary, such as space debris, a satellite, or a reflection, it would have been easy for NASA to provide a simple explanation. Instead, the silence was deafening, raising questions about what was really captured in the live stream. The shape of the UFO seen in Toby Lund's screenshot is of particular interest to researchers. The triangular craft is a well-known type of UFO, frequently spotted by both civilians and military personnel. These objects have been described as large, silent, and capable of hovering motionless before accelerating at impossible speeds. In some cases, they have even been reported to be invisible to radar, suggesting the use of advanced cloaking technology. The fact that a triangular UFO was seen near the space station raises the possibility that these craft are not only monitoring Earth's skies, but also operating in low Earth orbit. This sighting was not an isolated incident. Over the years, several anomalous objects have been spotted near the space station, many of which have been abruptly cut from the live feed. These incidents have been reported by various independent researchers who regularly monitor NASA's broadcasts. Some claim that the International Space Station is frequently visited by unknown craft, and that NASA is aware of their presence, but unwilling to share this information with the public. The pattern of live feed disruptions when unexplained objects appear suggests that there is an effort to prevent certain footage from being widely seen. One of the most compelling aspects of this sighting is the similarity between the craft and other triangular UFOs seen across the world. Reports of triangular-shaped UFOs have come from all corners of the globe, often described as being massive in size, flying silently, and displaying unusual lights along their edges. Some believe these craft could be part of a covert extraterrestrial presence, while others speculate that they may be highly classified human-made technology, possibly linked to black-budget military projects. The idea that UFOs are operating in Earth's orbit is not new. Throughout history, astronauts have reported strange encounters in space, with some even admitting to seeing unidentified craft outside their capsules. The famous Gemini and Apollo missions contained transcripts where astronauts described seeing unknown objects following them. Some even suggested that they were being watched by something that wasn't human. These accounts add to the credibility of sightings like the one captured by Toby Lund, reinforcing the possibility that extraterrestrial intelligence is actively observing human space missions. The implications of a triangular UFO near the space station are profound. If this craft was of non-human origin, it suggests that Earth's orbit is being monitored or even visited by an unknown intelligence. This would indicate that the presence of extraterrestrial craft is not limited to remote areas or hidden military encounters, but extends to the very edge of space. If NASA and other space agencies are aware of these encounters, it raises serious questions about secrecy, disclosure, and the true nature of our place in the universe. As the years go by, more and more high-quality footage of UFOs is being captured, making it increasingly difficult for skeptics to dismiss the phenomenon. The advancements in technology, such as high-resolution cameras and live streaming capabilities, have made it easier for everyday people to document and analyze sightings. The screenshot taken by Toby Lund is just one piece of a much larger puzzle, showing that UFOs are not only a terrestrial phenomenon, but are also present in the depths of space. While NASA continues to remain silent on such incidents, the public demand for answers is growing. Governments around the world have already begun to declassify UFO-related documents, and even the Pentagon has admitted that there are unidentified aerial phenomena that defy explanation. The next step is for space agencies to be more transparent about what they have observed in orbit. The triangular UFO near the space station remains one of the most compelling cases of an unidentified object seen in space. The fact that the live feed was cut out precisely at the moment it appeared only adds to the suspicion that something significant was captured. Whether this craft was of extraterrestrial origin, a secret military project, or something beyond human comprehension, one thing is certain: the mystery surrounding UFOs in space is far from over. UFO researchers have said that the International Space Station has been at the center of one of the most intriguing and controversial UFO discussions. Countless times, mysterious objects have been captured on the station's live cameras, only for the footage to mysteriously be cut off just as the UFOs come into view. This strange pattern has led many to believe that a deliberate cover-up is taking place, with NASA and other space agencies actively hiding evidence of unidentified flying objects in Earth's orbit. The space station, being one of the most advanced observational platforms in space, has inadvertently provided some of the most compelling evidence for the existence of these mysterious craft. What makes these sightings so compelling is the variety of UFOs that have been documented over the years. Unlike traditional sightings on Earth, where people often report seeing the same kinds of disc-shaped craft, the cameras have recorded an astonishing range of objects. Witnesses watching the live feeds have reported seeing black triangles, glowing orbs, metallic discs, and even long cylindrical objects floating in space. These are not random space debris or easily explainable anomalies. Many of these objects appear to move with purpose, change direction, and even slow down or hover near the space station before vanishing. One of the most disturbing aspects of these sightings is the recurring pattern of live feed interruptions. Time and time again, when a UFO appears on the space station's camera, the video suddenly cuts out. This happens so frequently that it has led many to question whether NASA and other space agencies are intentionally censoring what the public is allowed to see. If these were simply random glitches or technical malfunctions, they would not happen with such perfect timing, right as an unknown object comes into view. The likelihood of these interruptions being coincidental has become almost impossible to believe, fueling speculation that these live feeds are being deliberately controlled to prevent the world from witnessing something extraordinary. It is not just civilian UFO researchers who have reported these strange occurrences. Over the years, former astronauts have come forward with their own stories of seeing unexplained objects while in space. Some have spoken about witnessing bright orbs following their spacecraft, while others have hinted at encounters that they were warned not to speak about publicly. These testimonies align with the UFOs seen on the space station live feeds, further suggesting that these objects are not just space debris or technical anomalies, but something much more advanced. The types of UFOs seen at the space station vary widely, yet all exhibit characteristics that defy conventional explanation. Orb-shaped UFOs are among the most commonly seen, glowing spheres that seem to move independently and occasionally pulsate as if reacting to the environment around them. These orbs are particularly intriguing because they have also been seen on Earth for centuries, long before the invention of modern aircraft. If they were merely reflections or illusions, they would not appear in both terrestrial and space-based sightings with such consistency. In addition to orbs, black triangle UFOs have also been recorded near the space station. These massive, silent craft have been reported in Earth's atmosphere for decades, often seen hovering over military bases and high-security areas. Their presence in space suggests that they are not simply advanced human-made technology, as some skeptics suggest, but could be part of something much larger and more mysterious. Unlike known satellites, which follow predictable orbits and movements, these triangular objects appear to maneuver freely, changing speed and direction in ways that defy conventional propulsion methods. Another frequently observed shape is the disc-shaped craft, which many associate with the classic flying saucer design. These have been seen hovering near the space station, sometimes appearing to approach before suddenly vanishing. Their ability to appear and disappear almost instantly suggests that they may possess advanced cloaking technology or some form of propulsion that is beyond human understanding. Perhaps the most intriguing type of UFO seen near the space station is the cylindrical craft. These objects are long, metallic-looking, and sometimes appear to have glowing lights along their bodies. Unlike satellites, which move in predictable paths, these cylinders have been observed moving at strange angles, slowing down, and even stopping entirely before accelerating away. Some have speculated that these cylindrical objects could be motherships, acting as carriers for smaller craft. The repetitive nature of these sightings, combined with the strategic cutting of live feeds, makes it difficult to believe that NASA and other agencies are unaware of these objects. If the objects were easily explainable, why not simply provide a scientific answer to put the speculation to rest? The fact that they choose silence instead of transparency has only strengthened the belief that a cover-up is in place. As more people gain access to high-quality recording technology and continue to monitor the live streams, the number of documented sightings is likely to increase. The evidence is mounting, and the possibility that UFOs are actively monitoring space missions, human activity, or even the space station itself cannot be ignored. The truth remains elusive, but one fact is clear. UFOs have been seen near the International Space Station for years, and the repeated cutting of live feeds suggests that someone does not want the world to see what is truly happening in space. A recent investigation has revealed that the CIA's torture program was not only a systematic violation of human rights, but also an illegal regime of human experimentation. The findings, based on thousands of declassified documents, indicate that health professionals involved in designing and implementing the program engaged in unethical and unlawful human subject research. This experimentation was not incidental, but rather an intentional effort to study the psychological and physical effects of ill treatment, effectively using detainees as unwilling test subjects. The report sheds light on a deeply troubling chapter in intelligence operations, exposing the extent to which professionals tasked with ensuring human welfare were instead complicit in grave violations. At the heart of this revelation is the role of health professionals who went beyond merely overseeing interrogations. These individuals, including doctors and psychologists, were not only present during these sessions, but were actively involved in researching the effects of various interrogation techniques. The primary goal of this experimentation was to test the hypothesis that ill treatment could break detainees psychologically, making them more susceptible to providing information. This was not simply a matter of observing and documenting outcomes. It was a structured effort to refine and optimize methods of psychological and physical coercion. The evidence suggests that detainees were subjected to repeated and prolonged exposure to torture, with adjustments made based on the observed impact on their mental and physical states. The report shows that this constituted human experimentation in its most unethical form. Under US and international law, human subject research is bound by strict ethical guidelines, including informed consent and the prohibition of harm. The CIA's torture program, however, ignored these fundamental principles, treating detainees as experimental subjects without their knowledge or consent. Techniques such as waterboarding, sleep deprivation, sensory deprivation, and forced stress positions were applied not only as interrogation methods, but also as variables in a larger experimental framework. The findings suggest that rather than using these techniques solely to extract information, interrogators and health professionals were also monitoring how long individuals could endure them and what effects they had on their psychological state. The complicity of psychologists in this program is particularly troubling. Psychologists were not only instrumental in designing the ill treatment methods, but were also financially compensated for their role in conducting research on detainees. They played a direct part in shaping interrogation tactics based on their findings, effectively making them architects of a system that inflicted extreme suffering in the name of intelligence gathering. These professionals should have been bound by ethical guidelines that prioritize the well-being of individuals, yet they actively participated in a program that violated the very foundations of medical and psychological ethics. Furthermore, the program's structure indicates that data was systematically collected, analyzed, and used to refine techniques over time. This level of documentation and iteration suggests a clear research framework, one that would be instantly recognizable as human experimentation if conducted under any other circumstances. The fact that this occurred under the auspices of a government agency does not absolve it from scrutiny. Rather, it heightens the responsibility to hold those involved accountable. The report highlights that detainees were not only hurt, but were also subjected to continuous observation, with interrogators and medical personnel documenting their responses to various forms of abuse. This raises serious concerns about the extent to which these individuals were viewed as human beings rather than as test subjects in a cruel and secretive research program. The legal implications of these findings are profound. Under the Nuremberg Code, established in response to the atrocities committed by doctors during World War II, human experimentation without informed consent is strictly prohibited. The code serves as one of the cornerstones of modern medical ethics, emphasizing that individuals must never be subjected to medical experimentation against their will. The CIA's program, as outlined in this report, appears to have directly violated these principles, placing it in clear violation of both US and international law. Additionally, the Geneva Conventions explicitly prohibit cruel and inhumane treatment of prisoners, reinforcing the argument that this program constitutes a severe breach of legal and ethical standards. The revelation that human experimentation was a key component of the torture program fundamentally alters the public perception of what transpired. While discussions about CIA's ill treatment techniques have previously focused on the morality and effectiveness of enhanced interrogation techniques, this report shifts the conversation to a much darker reality. It is no longer just a question of whether these methods produced reliable intelligence. It is a question of whether an entire research program was designed to exploit human suffering in pursuit of psychological control. This distinction is critical because it reframes the program not as a misguided effort to prevent terrorism, but as a deliberate and systematic violation of human rights in the name of experimental research. The involvement of medical professionals in such a program also raises questions about institutional accountability. Organizations like the American Psychological Association have faced criticism for their previous failure to condemn psychologists' participation in programs. The findings of this report reinforce the need for greater oversight and accountability within the medical and psychological communities. Professionals who willingly participated in these experiments not only violated their ethical obligations, but also betrayed the fundamental trust placed in them by society. Holding these individuals accountable is not just a matter of justice, it is a necessary step toward preventing similar abuses in the future. Despite these revelations, the full extent of the program's impact remains unknown. Many of the detainees subjected to these experiments continue to suffer from severe psychological trauma, with some still held in indefinite detention. The long-term consequences of their treatment have yet to be fully acknowledged, and the lack of accountability for those responsible only adds to the injustice. If history has shown anything, it is that such programs do not simply disappear, they leave lasting scars on both individuals and institutions. Reckoning with this dark chapter requires more than just exposing the truth. It demands meaningful action to ensure that such abuses are never repeated. The report's findings challenge the notion that the program was merely an unfortunate misstep in the war on terror. Instead, it reveals a calculated and systematic effort to experiment on human subjects in violation of every ethical standard governing medical and psychological research. The evidence presented leaves little room for doubt. The CIA's program was not just about intelligence gathering, but was also an illegal research initiative designed to push the boundaries of human endurance under extreme duress. The implications of this discovery are far-reaching, requiring urgent attention and accountability at the highest levels. This is not just a matter of national security, it is a matter of human rights and justice that cannot be ignored. Many researchers believe that the CIA's program is only one part of a much larger web of secret experiments that have been covered up and hidden from public scrutiny. While some details have surfaced through declassified documents, countless programs are likely to have been buried so deep that they may never come to light. The idea that intelligence agencies have engaged in secret human experimentation is not speculation. It is an established fact. The worrying part is that the extent of these programs remains unknown, and what has been uncovered is likely just the tip of the iceberg. One of the most alarming aspects of these revelations is that many of these experiments were not conducted on foreign enemies or captured militants, but on American citizens themselves. Throughout history, there have been numerous examples of the US government subjecting its own people to unethical experiments without their knowledge or consent. The fact that agencies tasked with national security have used their own citizens as test subjects raises serious ethical and moral concerns. It calls into question how far the government has gone in its pursuit of scientific and military advancements, and whether those in power have deliberately withheld information from the public to avoid accountability. Similarly, during the Cold War, the government conducted radiation experiments on unknowing Americans. Pregnant women were given radioactive iron without their consent to study its effects on fetal development. Prisoners and hospital patients were injected with plutonium to observe how radiation spread through the body. Many of these victims were left with irreversible damage, their suffering ignored in the name of national security. These experiments highlight a disturbing pattern: government agencies operating in secrecy, subjecting their own citizens to inhumane treatment while shielding themselves from accountability. The recent report on the CIA's program suggests that these types of experiments did not stop with these projects. Instead, they evolved into new forms, hidden behind classified documents and protected by national security justifications. The claim that medical professionals were involved in testing the effects of torture on detainees is particularly disturbing. It indicates that these programs were not merely about intelligence gathering, but were also about refining coercion techniques and pushing the limits of human endurance. The lack of oversight allowed these experiments to continue unchecked, making it likely that similar projects exist today, hidden from public view. One of the greatest concerns is that the full extent of these programs may never be known. Intelligence agencies have long perfected the art of covering their tracks, destroying records, and ensuring that those involved remain silent. Even when programs are exposed, the government often refuses to acknowledge wrongdoing, relying on bureaucratic denials and classification loopholes to keep the truth buried. The likelihood that similar projects are still being conducted, shielded from public scrutiny, is not far-fetched. If history has shown anything, it is that secrecy and power often lead to abuses that only come to light decades later, if at all. Another troubling factor is the justification used for these programs. Time and again, the government has claimed that such experiments are necessary for national security. Whether it was the Cold War, the war on terror, or other perceived threats, secrecy has always been justified by the need to protect the country. However, these justifications have often been used as a shield to cover up unethical practices. The government has manipulated the concept of security to justify human experimentation, torture, and the violation of basic human rights. This raises an important question. Where is the line drawn, and who decides what is acceptable in the name of national defense? The use of American citizens as test subjects in government experiments should serve as a wake-up call. These programs highlight the dangers of unchecked power and the consequences of allowing intelligence agencies to operate without transparency. The potential for abuse increases when those in control believe they are above the law. If the government was willing to conduct experiments on its own people in the past, there is little reason to believe that similar activities are not taking place today under different names and classifications. The lack of accountability for these programs is one of the most frustrating aspects of the issue. Even when evidence emerges, those responsible are rarely held accountable. Officials responsible for past experiments have often escaped consequences by citing national security concerns or claiming that the actions were justified by the circumstances of the time. This failure to enforce accountability only emboldens those who continue to operate in the shadows, knowing that they can act without fear of repercussions. The secrecy surrounding these programs also has significant implications for trust in government institutions. When the public learns that their own government has lied to them about conducting experiments on its citizens, it fosters a deep sense of betrayal. People begin to question what else is being hidden, and whether those in power truly have the public's best interests in mind. This erosion of trust can have long-term consequences, making it difficult for the government to function effectively and for citizens to believe in the integrity of their institutions. If these programs are ever to be fully exposed, it will require determined efforts from independent researchers, whistleblowers, and investigative journalists. Transparency must become a priority, and the public must demand accountability for past and present human experimentation. Without pressure from the people, these programs will remain buried, their victims forgotten, and their perpetrators protected. The fact that the government has conducted experiments on its own citizens is deeply troubling, and the possibility that similar programs continue today is even more alarming. In 2014, a remarkable discovery was made while examining photographs taken by NASA's Curiosity rover on Mars. UFO researchers spotted a cigar-shaped object hovering above the Martian surface, an anomaly that has since sparked widespread speculation and intrigue. The images, captured by Curiosity's right-hand navigation camera on May 4th, show what appears to be a long, cylindrical white object suspended in the Martian sky for approximately 16 minutes. This unusual sighting has led many to question whether extraterrestrial activity is being observed around Mars, and whether NASA is withholding crucial information about the presence of unknown objects orbiting the red planet. Curiosity has been actively exploring the Gale crater on Mars since 2012, capturing thousands of raw images as part of its mission to study the planet's surface, atmosphere, and geological history. These images are sent back to Earth for analysis, providing scientists and independent researchers alike with an opportunity to examine every aspect of the Martian environment. It was during one of these routine examinations that UFO enthusiasts noticed something unusual, a sleek, elongated object hovering in the sky, unlike anything previously observed on Mars. The shape and appearance of the object immediately caught the attention of researchers. Unlike the usual debris, dust particles, or camera anomalies that can sometimes appear in space imagery, this object exhibited characteristics that suggested it was something far more structured and deliberate. The cylindrical shape has been widely reported in past UFO sightings, particularly those involving so-called cigar-shaped UFOs, which have been observed on Earth for decades. The fact that an object with similar features has now been captured hovering over Mars raises profound questions about the possibility of extraterrestrial activity in the Martian orbit. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of this sighting is that the object remained in the air for 16 minutes. If this were merely an artifact of the camera, an issue with light exposure, or an optical illusion, it would not have persisted for such a significant length of time. Additionally, given Mars's thin atmosphere and lack of strong winds capable of suspending objects in mid-air, the possibility that this was some form of natural debris seems highly unlikely. Researchers argue that the object's presence, position, and duration suggest deliberate movement or control, rather than an uncontrolled environmental phenomenon. This sighting is not the first time cigar-shaped UFOs have been linked to space exploration. If the object seen in Curiosity's 2014 images is indeed an advanced craft, it raises several critical questions. Why was it hovering over Mars? Was it observing the rover, or did it have a separate mission on the planet? Some researchers speculate that Mars, being one of the most Earth-like planets in our solar system, could be of interest to extraterrestrial visitors. If intelligent life exists elsewhere, it would make sense for them to monitor planets that hold potential for life or future colonization. The idea that we are not alone in exploring Mars is both exciting and unsettling. NASA has remained silent on the issue, providing no clear explanation for the anomaly. The space agency has a long history of dismissing UFO-related findings, often attributing them to camera glitches, reflections, or natural phenomena. However, given the object's clear shape, prolonged presence, and structured appearance, these conventional explanations fall short. The lack of an official statement has only fueled speculation that NASA is withholding evidence of extraterrestrial encounters. Some argue that the object could be space debris or a speck of dust on the camera lens, but these explanations fail to account for the sustained appearance of the object for over 16 minutes. If it were dust or a photographic artifact, it would likely appear in only one frame or change position erratically. Instead, the cigar-shaped UFO remained consistently in view, behaving in a way that suggests it was a physical object hovering in Martian airspace. Another interesting aspect of this sighting is the possibility that extraterrestrial beings are already observing Mars. Some theorists propose that intelligent civilizations might have been monitoring our space missions for decades, ensuring that human activity in space does not interfere with their own operations. If this were the case, the presence of the cylindrical UFO near Curiosity would make perfect sense. It could be a probe or a reconnaissance craft sent to observe the rover's activities. The discovery of this object also aligns with previous UFO sightings around Mars, as well as claims made by former NASA employees and astronauts who have hinted at strange encounters in space. Over the years, multiple images from various Mars missions have depicted unexplained lights, hovering objects, and even structures on the Martian surface. While NASA typically ignores or downplays these findings, the sheer volume of anomalies suggests that there is far more happening on Mars than we are being told. With new Mars missions and advanced imaging technology on the horizon, researchers are hopeful that even more evidence will emerge in the coming years. Space agencies such as NASA, ESA, and SpaceX continue to send rovers and probes to the Red Planet, increasing the likelihood that another unexplained craft could be caught on camera. If intelligent extraterrestrial beings are indeed monitoring Mars, the possibility of a future encounter or more direct evidence grows stronger. The 2014 cigar-shaped UFO sighting near Mars remains one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for extraterrestrial activity beyond Earth. Its structured appearance, prolonged duration, and similarity to other known UFOs make it difficult to dismiss. Whether this was an alien craft, an unknown space vehicle, or something beyond human comprehension, one thing is clear: Mars continues to be a hotspot for mysteries that defy explanation. As more images and data from Mars missions continue to surface, the world may soon be forced to confront the reality that we are not alone, and we may have never been alone to begin with. Oddly enough, this isn't the first time that a strange object has been seen close to Mars. The Phobos 2 mission remains one of the most mysterious and controversial space explorations in history. Launched in July 1988, it was the second Soviet spacecraft sent to study Mars's mysterious moon, Phobos. The mission's primary objectives were to analyze the Martian atmosphere, surface, and gravitational properties of Phobos, but what happened in March 1989 would overshadow the mission's scientific goals and leave one of the most perplexing UFO encounters in space exploration history. On March 27, 1989, just months before Phobos 2-2 lost contact with Earth, the spacecraft captured a series of astonishing images. Among them was an image that would become the subject of intense speculation and debate: a long cylindrical object hovering above the Martian surface. Unlike anything previously observed in space, this object had a smooth, structured appearance and cast a distinct shadow on the Martian terrain below. The shape, size, and alignment of this shadow suggested that it was not a mere trick of light or a natural celestial formation. Instead, it appeared to be an actual, physical object. The presence of this cigar-shaped UFO immediately raised questions about what Phobos 2 had encountered. The object's elongated structure did not match any known asteroid or natural Martian geological formation. Unlike ordinary space debris or celestial bodies, which typically rotate or drift unpredictably, this object appeared to maintain a deliberate, controlled position. Some researchers have pointed out that the structure bore striking similarities to other cigar-shaped UFOs that have been reported throughout history, both on Earth and in space. The fact that an unmanned spacecraft orbiting Mars captured such an object only intensified the mystery. The most puzzling aspect of this encounter was what happened immediately after the photograph was taken. Shortly after transmitting these images back to mission control, Phobos 2 suddenly and inexplicably lost contact. The spacecraft was functioning properly up until this moment, leading to speculation that the encounter with the unidentified object may have played a role in its sudden disappearance. Some researchers suggest that Phobos 2 may have been deliberately disabled to prevent further transmission of images. Whether this was due to an external force or an unknown phenomenon remains a subject of debate. The Soviet Space Agency at the time provided no clear explanation for the loss of Phobos 2. While technical failures are always a possibility in space missions, it is unusual for a spacecraft to suddenly go silent immediately after capturing an unexplained anomaly. This sequence of events led many to believe that the spacecraft may have been interfered with by an unknown intelligence. To this day, the exact cause of Phobos 2's failure remains classified and unsolved. Adding to the intrigue, Russian scientists who were involved in the mission later hinted at the possibility of an external force being responsible for the failure. During a press conference, Soviet space officials acknowledged that something unusual had occurred, but refrained from making definitive statements about what exactly caused the spacecraft to fail. Some reports even suggested that the images taken before the loss of contact were analyzed privately, raising suspicions that more information exists than has been publicly disclosed. One of the most striking aspects of this case is how it aligns with other UFO encounters in space. Over the years, astronauts from both NASA and the Soviet space program have reported seeing unidentified objects in orbit. Many of these objects share the same elongated, cylindrical shape seen in the Phobos 2 images. Some theorists propose that these objects are not random anomalies, but part of an ongoing extraterrestrial presence in space, monitoring human activities beyond Earth. Additionally, the location of this encounter is noteworthy. Phobos, the Martian moon that the spacecraft was sent to study, has been the subject of speculation for decades. Some scientists have suggested that Phobos itself may not be a natural moon, but rather a hollowed-out artificial structure. It exhibits strange orbital behaviors, and radar scans have hinted at unusual internal compositions. If there is any truth to the idea that Phobos is more than just a natural satellite, then the presence of an unidentified object near it becomes even more significant. Many researchers believe that the Phobos 2 incident is one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that we are not alone. The clear, structured shape of the object, the fact that it cast a distinct shadow, and the mysterious loss of the spacecraft immediately after taking the image all suggest that this was not a simple technical failure or natural occurrence. If Phobos 2 had merely malfunctioned due to mechanical issues, there would be no reason to associate its failure with the appearance of the cylindrical UFO. However, the timing of events and the peculiar nature of the object in the image make this one of the most unexplained encounters in space exploration. To this day, NASA and other space agencies have not officially commented on the Phobos 2 UFO images, nor have they provided any explanations that satisfy the questions raised by researchers. The lack of transparency surrounding this case has only fueled further suspicion. Was Phobos 2's transmission intentionally disrupted to keep the world from seeing something we weren't meant to see? With modern space exploration technology improving, the possibility of future encounters with similar objects is very real. Private space agencies, such as SpaceX, are now launching their own missions to Mars, meaning that more eyes than ever before are watching the Martian surface. If there is indeed something out there, it is only a matter of time before more evidence surfaces. The Phobos 2 incident stands as a reminder that space is still a vast and largely unknown frontier. While scientific missions seek to uncover the secrets of the universe, there may be forces at play that we do not yet fully understand. The presence of an unidentified, structured object hovering near Mars, captured by a government spacecraft before its mysterious disappearance, is a story that demands further investigation. Until more answers emerge, the case of Phobos 2 and its final transmission remains one of the most intriguing UFO mysteries of all time. UFOs appearing in Mars images is not a new phenomenon. Over the years, NASA's rovers and orbiters have captured multiple anomalies that have sparked debate among researchers and UFO enthusiasts. The Curiosity rover, Perseverance, and older missions like Viking and Spirit have all recorded strange objects in the Martian sky that resemble classic UFO shapes, including orbs, disks, and cylindrical objects. These sightings have led many to believe that Mars is being actively observed by unknown entities. In the quiet coastal area of Otuma, Peru, a set of remarkable photographs has recently emerged, stirring both intrigue and concern among local residents and researchers. These images, taken in the early hours of dawn, depict what many believe to be small grey humanoid beings walking along a road near the sea. Measuring approximately 1 meter and 10 centimeters in height, the figures have been described by locals as greys, a term often used in reference to extraterrestrial visitors. The events leading to the discovery of these photographs began when a fisherman, accustomed to walking along the coastal road with a flashlight for safety, noticed an overwhelming odor unlike anything he had encountered before. This scent, described by many throughout Peru as a pungent, sulfur-like smell, has often been reported in connection with sightings of these mysterious beings. Trusting his instincts, the fisherman later reviewed the photographs he had taken that morning and, to his astonishment, saw not one, but 2 of the entities moving near the roadside. While such sightings in the Otuma region are rare, locals assert that these beings are more commonly spotted in remote caves far from human habitation. The fact that they were observed so close to the road that night has only deepened the mystery surrounding their behavior and intentions. The strong, distinctive odor accompanying their presence has been a recurring detail in many encounters, serving as both a warning and an unmistakable sign of their proximity. Among the communities most vocal about these encounters are the Iquitu indigenous people, who have for some time claimed that advanced beings have been intruding upon their lands. The Iquitu describe these visitors as impervious to traditional defensive tools and possessing remarkable abilities. According to their accounts, the beings wear protective suits and move with an unusual grace, aided by spherical footwear that glows with a red light and allows them to float just above the ground. Community leader Jairo Reategui Avila has spoken openly about his own encounters, describing the visitors as beings from another world. In one incident, he attempted to deter one of them, but the being remained completely unaffected before disappearing from sight in an unexplainable manner. The presence of these beings has caused significant unease among the Iquitu, prompting them to organize nightly patrols to safeguard their homes and families. Authorities have visited the area, exploring the outskirts of the village in an effort to understand the situation, but no definitive explanation has been offered. Despite the uncertainty, the accounts from the villagers remain consistent, adding weight to the belief that these encounters are genuine. One of the more striking features described in these reports is the entity's ability to produce an intense, blinding light. On certain nights, villagers have seen an otherworldly glow emanating from fields beyond the community. The familiar hum of nocturnal insects would vanish, replaced by a silence so deep that it seemed to press upon the listeners. On one such occasion, the glow painted the landscape in soft shades of pale blue, creating an atmosphere at once beautiful and unsettling. Curiosity often drove groups of villagers to the edge of the illuminated fields, where they reported witnessing a figure emerging from the ethereal light. This being, according to multiple witnesses, possessed smooth grey skin and a slender, almost weightless form. It appeared to hover just above the earth, its large, almond-shaped silver eyes reflecting the moonlight in mesmerizing patterns. Those who saw it up close spoke of a moment suspended between fear and fascination, unsure whether they were in the presence of a friend, an observer, or something entirely beyond human comprehension. Researcher Ronnie Verney from Brazil has been following these events since news first surfaced. His dedication to documenting the phenomenon has led him to set up monitoring equipment across remote regions of Peru. Verney has reported capturing unexplained activity, further supporting the claims of the locals. According to him, the encounters have not diminished in frequency. In fact, reports suggest that the beings continue to visit, maintaining a mysterious presence in the region. The cultural and emotional impact of these events on the people of Otuma and the Iquitu community cannot be understated. The blend of fear, awe, and curiosity has reshaped nightly routines and forged a collective vigilance among the villagers. While the Peruvian authorities have yet to offer a conclusive statement, the experiences of those living in these coastal and rural areas have solidified their belief in the reality of these visitors. This is not the first time in history that isolated communities have reported strange visitors from beyond the stars, but the consistency of the details, the distinctive sulfur-like scent, and the photographic evidence make this case particularly compelling. The beings' apparent immunity to traditional deterrents and their sophisticated means of movement point to a level of technology and biology far surpassing anything known to humanity. As the story continues to unfold, one thing remains certain. For the people of Otuma and the surrounding villages, the night no longer feels entirely their own. The boundary between the familiar world and the unknown has been crossed, leaving behind questions that may take years, if not generations, to answer. Whether these visitors are explorers, scientists, or something entirely different, their presence has left an indelible mark on those who have seen them. The photographs captured that dawn serve as a stark reminder that the universe may hold more than humanity can yet comprehend. They are a silent testimony to an encounter at the edge of human experience, where the road near the sea became the stage for a fleeting glimpse into another reality, one in which small grey beings walk among us, accompanied by the scent of sulfur and the glow of otherworldly light. The mystery of the Richmond Boomerang UFO sighting. In the warm summer months of the year 2010, a quiet evening in the small community of Richmond, New Jersey, would bring an encounter that, while brief, would leave 3 witnesses utterly captivated and puzzled. Although the sighting itself lasted only seconds, its implications link it to decades of similar reports in the region, specifically those involving mysterious boomerang-shaped aerial objects. To those who follow such events closely, the Richmond sighting is not merely an isolated case, but part of a longer, more mysterious thread, stretching back through the 20th century. On the evening of the 11th of August, at approximately 9 o'clock, a local resident was standing outside their home with 2 friends. The day was winding down, and the 3 were casually chatting before heading their separate ways. The summer air was calm, the sky was clear, and the moon shone brightly enough to give the landscape a soft, pale glow. It was then that something unusual in the sky caught the attention of the main witness. She gasped audibly, prompting her companions to turn and look. Living only about 20 miles from Philadelphia International Airport, the witnesses were used to seeing the constant movement of aircraft coming and going. The main witness at first assumed she had spotted another passenger jet approaching the busy airport. However, what they saw was nothing of the kind. Instead, silhouetted against the moonlit sky was a large black object, moving swiftly in an east-northeast direction. Its shape was striking, a sharp-angled boomerang, its edges clean and unmistakable when illuminated by the moonlight. When it drifted out of the light, it seemed almost to vanish into the blackness, as its dark exterior blended perfectly with the night sky. The main witness would later remark that the object appeared much larger than the commercial aircraft they often saw. More intriguingly, there was no audible engine noise, no roar of jet turbines, no hum of propellers, only silence. For a place where the sky is rarely empty, the witnesses were surprised to see no other aircraft in view at all. It was as if, for those few moments, the airspace had been cleared for this silent traveller. The trio continued to watch, noting the object's unwavering course and speed. There was no deviation, no wobble, no sign of turbulence, only the impression of perfect, deliberate control. Within seconds, it slipped away into the distance, disappearing as suddenly as it had appeared. The 3 friends turned to one another in disbelief, knowing that whatever they had just seen was no ordinary aircraft. After parting ways, the main witness wasted no time in recording the sighting online, partly in the hope that someone else might have seen it, but also to mark the date and time so it would not be forgotten. No other reports came in from that night, but the experience remained vivid in her mind in the days and weeks that followed. She tried repeatedly to make sense of it, even entertaining the possibility of a secret military craft. But the more she considered it, the more that theory seemed to falter.